Hello and good morning, Katowice! We are already on day 5 here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. And though we started with 76 players from all over the world, after 4 days of action, we are down to just 12. We saw some crazy eliminations early on in the likes of Stats and Sue, but in this group stage, the Korean players have proven largely dominant, as the only non-Korean to advance was Carrol. Now moving forward, Group C and D had many highlights, as the support in the audience has been absolutely fantastic, along with the crazy StarCraft 2 matches that we witnessed.
Welcome to the Hacks Pre-Show.
That's right, time to get things started here for day number 5 of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. Over the past 2 days, we've had 24 of the world's best players compete for these 12 spots, and we've whittled it down. 4 of which have made it to the round of 8, 8 of which are in that round of 12 and are battling now for elimination or advancement. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the battle station. And we do have, to my right-hand side, it's Pig, it's Rotterdam. Gentlemen, phenomenal games throughout these past 2 days in our group stage.
Yeah, it's been an incredible couple of days so far. They've been grueling. They've been long days, but the games have just been rolling in. The players have surprised us a few times. We've seen the champ from last year go through in beautiful fashion. TY just destroyed everyone. But there's been other names we had question marks around. Solar destroying it. We've got other players making their way through. A lot of course, heartbreaking near misses as well.
Yeah, it almost feels like I'm having the same speech every morning. We've had so many games that are worth talking about, so many long games. I mean, that Carrol Neeb game yesterday that we accidentally jumped in here on the laptop, nothing but spectacular. 36 minutes of Roach Hydra, and then of course some lurkers in there as well. How often do you see that, Pig? That game was supposed to be over 1 million times, and Carrol being Carrol somehow getting the job done. Some crazy PvPs I've seen as well. We've seen ridiculous PvZs. I love it, James. It's been so good.
Let's take a look at the groups and get you up to speed as to who has advanced on via that group stage. Of course, there's 3 players from each, with the first player going to the round of 8, the 2 players below him going to the round of 12. So Group A, we did have TY, Dia, and Maru. I was about to say powerful stuff. Group B, we do have Solar, Dark, and Hurricane. And then moving on to Group C as well. Serral, Rogue, and Impact. And then moving finally on to Group D as well. We have Classic, SOS, and Trap to round things out. So what was really your guys' highlights from the group stage? Do you have any particular thing that really stood out to you? I'll start with you, Pig, first.
You know, something which never gets old for me is seeing Serral absolutely destroy everybody. It's just cool to see someone who in these long-form tournaments, you've got so many games, so many matches, and he's just so consistent. He just keeps on destroying every single opponent. I mean, often we doubt the players. We go in with big expectations. We think maybe in these big stages, there's got to be a weak point. So far, zero weakness for Serral, so I've got high hopes for him.
Roddy?
I was going to go Serral as well, but you have to look at the other group winners too. And that is, of course, our reigning champ, TY. I mean, it's often a story that we hope for, but we don't get it very often, where the guy who won the massive tournament last year is like, how far is he going to go this year? And then it's like open brackets, like, okay, let's cut the storyline. You know, let's focus on a different one. But TY winning his group 5-0, that's obviously really cool. Makes us very excited to see him potentially go very far in his title defense. Solar winning his group, would not have called that.
Exactly.
And I also want to give some love to Dark, because Dark was actually like my top pick going into this tournament, and he started off 1 and 2. But still making it out of that group, beating Innovation when it matters the most. So even though Dark had a very rough start, I was happy to see him bounce back and win. And of course, you cannot ignore Classic's dominance. Like, what has he been eating lately? Holy hell.
Of course. I mean, a lot of people have been pegging someone like Classic to do very well in this tournament. If you look at our round of 8 combatants so far, you've got Serral, who made it to the round of 8 straight last time by topping his group. You've got TY in there. He is the current and reigning and defending Intel Extreme Masters World Champion. Classic's, as I say, been pegged. But Solar getting through to the round of 8, Pig, as Roddy just mentioned there, is a little bit of a surprise for me for him to go straight to the round of 8, given the lineup of players.
Yeah, I mean, those weren't easy matches at all, but Solar made his match versus Innovation look almost simple. It was like straightforward, just massive macro play. You know, he was playing Mutiling Bane in some of the games. We saw him kill other opponents like Uthermal with big roach timings. Solar's always been a clever player, but he seems to have that nice mix of macro style. He can kind of react to the situations, play a standard game. He can pull out the cheeky timing attacks as well. So Solar just blitzed his way through there.
You know what also really stands out, James, is that everybody that won that group, they did it in very convincing fashion. Nobody got like a lucky group victory with a 3-2 record or a 4-1 record, but with lots of 2-1 victories. No, all the guys that won that group went 5-0 in that group, and they all did it by either going 10-2 in maps, which is insane, of course, or even 10-1 if you're Classic. I mean, that's not something I would have predicted either. I really expected ties and a close race for first place in any of these groups. But those 4 guys that won it, TY, Solar, Serral, and Classic, they all just dominated.
It's not even as if Classic had to keep up the momentum at the last stages of his group, but he was just like, actually, no, I'm actually just really good. I'm actually just going to kill everything.
Yeah, so we thought SOS would take him down in the PvP. We're like, oh, it's SOS. He's the PvP master. And Classic was like, no, I'm just going to take you out 2-0, clean and simple.
So there's so many good matches to talk about in the round of 12 as well. Never mind the dream matches that can potentially happen in the round of 8, which have a lot of historical impact here. But let's talk about some of the round of 12 matches. I really, 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 really want to start with SOS versus Maru, because for me, when I look at the round of 12, that's my big, big highlight. Am I wrong in that? What are we thinking?
It's going to be so cool. SOS is obviously the guy who goes in with these crazy styles, and Maru very aggressive. So, I mean, I'm personally so excited for us to go deep on the analysis when we get there.
Of course.
But just looking at it, you're like, okay, Maru, he's leading the charge for Terran in GSL. He's the Terran hope in Korea right now. And SOS is just looking so good in Protoss vs Terran. Like, we saw him yesterday dismantle Ryung with like his first Oracle in a couple of Adept some games. We've seen him pulling out all sorts of just crazy aggressive builds. And Terran players are really struggling against what he's doing, which is what no other Protoss player is doing. He's just inventing his own builds, his own little adjustments and timings.
And there's that crazy moment as well, Rotterdam, where I think SOS and Maru have to play each other in GSL as well. So they're going to have to play each other into extremely high-profile best-of-5s. That has to be something going on there.
Yeah, that's really weird, but obviously they're not thinking about that right now. I think this is right now, they flew all the way to Poland, massive tournament, so much money on the line, but a really big moment for the overall state, I feel, of TVP as well, because a lot of people have been saying that this is very tough for Terran at the moment. It's still very tough. Like a while ago, it was almost impossible. They fixed that, but it's really funny because you look at the foreign scene, and there actually, I think the Terrans are still performing quite well in this matchup, but then you look at over in Korea, and that's where the Korean Protosses are often just dominating against Terran.
Right.
Except what Pick said, Maru is kind of leading the charge. Of course, TY is still in this tournament as well. But yeah, a big moment for the TVP matchup and the state of things overall, I think.
We can look at the bracket as well whilst we continue talking about these matches, just to make sure that you know exactly where all these players lie in this bracket. Another match that I do want to talk about is Hurricane versus Rogue. Rogue, obviously, our global champion so far from 2017's BlizzCon. And he goes up against who I consider to be kind of the sleeper of the tournament. He kind of not only, in my mind, snuck through a little bit, but impressed so much in the group stage that I was like, well, okay, all right, we shouldn't doubt Hurricane's ability.
I am so happy that Hurricane is finally showing his mettle, because this is a guy who has been hyped up for so many years. Like, it has been about 6 years on and off. He's been rank 1 on the Korean ladder. There have been players saying he's about to break out, and it's not just a random fanboy. There's not one guy on social media saying Hurricane's the best. No, it's the rest of the Korean scene saying he's one of the best practice partners. He is top 3 Protoss a lot of the time, and we kind of look at that and we say, but he just doesn't seem to perform on LAN. He doesn't perform at these live events. So far, Hurricane's just turned that upside down. Rogue against him, it's a tough match, but if you can get through Rogue, anything can happen.
I mean, Hurricane is, of course, a very interesting story, especially because he spends a lot of time with the other non-Koreans that are currently in Korea at the house that No Regret is setting up. But aren't we all sleeping a little bit on Rogue? I mean, he's still our WCS global champion. And of course, he had that disappointing exit in the round of 32 of GSL. And then at this tournament, we show him the first game and he lost. And everyone's like, oh, here we go again. Rogue doesn't have it anymore. But he finished his group 4-1. He went 9-3 in maps, which is pretty much as good as he could have possibly done after he dropped that first series. So maybe we're actually not giving enough love to Rogue here. Maybe Rogue is still Rogue from 2017. Yeah,
you know, Zerg versus Zerg is his weakest matchup as well, and that's the only set he dropped, and it was so narrow, that loss to Serral. It was very hard for him. Yeah,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So we definitely have to respect our world champion currently coming into this. Another match, Dia versus Impact. Another story here of, you know, someone like Impact not truly realizing his full potential on the international stage, but getting another opportunity to do so here, Pig. And of course, Dia, who has had meteoric rises, but also meteoric falls in his overall career.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Impact's never quite reached that same level of notoriety that, of course, Dia has. He's been up there and done some good things, but yeah, Impact, he's someone who we've followed a bit. We've seen him, you know, playing on Axiom back in the day. We've seen him make it to the grand finals of a DreamHack a long time ago.
Yes.
Impact, though, hasn't, I think, really shown that he can play with the big boys in the past, and now he's here and he's still playing a very momentum-focused style. He's all about aggression, dictating the pace of the game, but he seems to be making it work incredibly well. And as you get to this stage, every player is going to be well prepared. These guys have been studying each other's builds overnight, and that's where Impact starts to have the real test. If you can get past Deer, you know, he's just been destroying the group stage. So it's a big question mark match. Neither of them big favorites going through past that stage, but whoever wins is going to have a little bit more hope.
And I do want to ask you, Rotterdam, we're almost ready to go into our first match here, so I want to get our thoughts here. I really want to iron out things at this day number 5. Every single match is very important because every single player is either one game away from elimination or one game away from advancing. So, Trap versus Dark is going to be our first series here, Rotterdam. What do you make of how things could potentially go down in this series?
It's tough, man. I mean, Trap kind of squeezed by, right? He had to win the final series and then had to make sure that Ryong didn't win his final series in the group.
Yeah.
So Trap wasn't super convincing in the group, but he also started 0-2 and then bounced back in a very impressive manner. I don't know about Dark in the CVP though. I mean, lately his results have not been spectacular in the matchup. In my mind, he was actually like, he was really gearing up and he was getting ready towards this event, but he dropped his first series of the tournament against Hurricane. And I don't think Hurricane is necessarily a better player than Trap.
Right.
So I don't know, James. I find this a very scary one for my pick for this tournament. I still believe that Dark can get the job done here, but it's crazy how almost, I mean, Pick, you mentioned this yesterday as well. It's like every PvZ we watch, Protoss players have been moving out with their first or second adept like for ages, right? We've all been doing that. And you're used to, like, if you can get one drone that's being transferred or somehow you shade in and you shade back, you get 2 drones. Now everybody's getting 4 or 5 drones. Then the Oracle shows up, you get 4 or 5 drones. And PvZ or ZVP becomes very hard to play for Zerg if you end up losing 8-9 drones against the Adepts and the Oracles and you don't kill those units.
Yeah.
So I'm worried for Dark. I'm actually worried. His early game is going to have to be so clean in this best of 5.
Pig, do we need to get all the blood out? Is there going to be a lot of baths in this.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of baths, James.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of action. Honestly, I mean, it's so chaotic at the moment with like the sort of meta we see in Zerg versus Protoss as well, where it's like the Protoss players really don't want to let the Zerg get out of control. For a while, everyone was complaining about kind of Hydra Baneling getting out of control because Zergs were being so greedy. We had a period where players like SOS were just like, we're just going to shade Adepts in and kill you before you get there. And it's kind of balanced out now where there's a real back and forth and both sides are respecting each other a lot. We're seeing a lot of, you know, roach defense from the Zerg players, Dark included, but I feel almost like sometimes Dark gets a little bit impatient in these series, and he does go for these sort of transparent all-in attacks. I feel like he's got to be a little bit trickier with that. The Protoss players are playing very safe. They're respecting the Zerg all-ins right now. So I think he's got to be very clever with how he decides to execute any aggression.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Always great to hear your expert analysis as we get into our first best of 5 here for the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship round of 12. Trap goes up against Dark.
Something in the air tonight. I'm gonna have to reach for new heights. And if I have to stand alone, I'm not afraid to face the throne. The enemy is all around. The walls crumble as I watch them fall down.
Welcome back, guys, to the main stage. It's finally time to introduce the players for our first best of 5 here in the round of 12. It's going to be a match between two former champions as an MLG champion takes on an SSL champion. This is also a rematch of the Katowice semifinals from 2015. Back then, the Protoss was able to come out on top. We'll see if the Zerg player can reverse his fate this time. Please welcome up on stage. It is Trap and Dark.
Good morning, everybody. This is Tasteless and Artosis bringing you our first best of 5 in day 5 of the Intel Extreme Masters.
That's right. A big and long day of StarCraft 2 ahead of us. The very best players in the world facing off. And this is a great first match.
It really is. You're looking at Dark, somebody who's so seasoned many times, considered the best Zerg in the world. Trap, a player who was always considered amongst the best Protosses of all time in StarCraft 2. However, he is here to redefine himself. And he has gotten very deep in this tournament. A lot of people were not sure exactly how to define Trap pre-Intel Extreme Masters 2018 here in Katowice. He, if he overcomes Dark here, there may be nobody that can stop him. Dark trying to reassert his dominance as one of the greatest Zerg players, also late game players in StarCraft 2. But the way that the matchup has changed now is important. A lot of Protosses, as was mentioned at the analysis desk, have gotten very good at poking holes in Zerg players who try to macro up. So I imagine this match is going to be one where Trap is setting up an obstacle course that Dark will have to navigate if he wants to try to survive.
It's a good way to put it. No doubt we will see some pressure from Trap as he tries to hurt Dark early on. But Dark is maybe the best Zerg in the world at playing from behind. And that's like a weird thing to say. It's a weird thing to be the best at. But like, even if you injure Dark severely, he knows how to come back in those situations.
He really does. He knows how to defend, surround without ever really overextending. So it's going to be fun to see this game try to progress forward with these two players trying to trip each other up as much as possible.
Well, as you see, of course, Dark is no stranger to Katowice. This guy looking for some big championships. He has been the best Zerg in the world more often than not over the last 3 to 4 years. And he's someone who has publicly said in some of these video interviews that he's had for BlizzCon and whatnot that, you know what, he wants to be synonymous with StarCraft. At the end of the day, when you talk about StarCraft, he wants that to bring up, you know, an image of him in your mind. But that means he needs to win some big tournaments like IEM Katowice.
There's no turning back now. We're in the final phase of the bracket. So many players left behind through this elimination process. And now we go into our first match. In the upper left, in the red, make some noise for Dark! In the bottom right, in the blue, he is Trap!
A huge crowd for it being so early in the morning. Well, you know, I guess it's noon, but for nerds, that's pretty early in the morning.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I might as well be milking my cows right now. This is this is very early for anybody who's a big gamer. We usually tend to be night people, but this is a great way to start off the day. With these two players, now that we are actually in a best-of-5 phase, there's a lot more opportunity to try to read into how the other player's playing as the match progresses. So I'm curious to see what kind of build orders they're going to open up with. This map actually allows for a variety of different approaches, since we do have that additional expansion tucked into the back. Although it's not that mineral rich, it does have gases you can access. So it's going to be cool to see whether the players tend to expand out or retract back into the freer, safer bases.
Well, you know, this is a map that we do see longer games on because of that. Now, we saw something kind of interesting right off the bat here, which is Trap scouted the gold base immediately upon going out with his probe. So that's not something that you normally see, but it is gaining popularity. These Zergs taking a gold base quickly on this map and trying to utilize that. Gold base is very good for Zerg players, especially against Protoss.
And we've seen this off and on with a lot of different periods within StarCraft 2's history where acquisition of quick gold bases can allow you to have leverage in certain very specific rushes, where the Protosses, they can't just go out there and take a gold as easily.
No, it's a bit harder at that point. The Zerg can get that aggression on, but let's see where Trap wants to go with this. Chrono boosting out his first Adept, getting that Stargate. Very standard stuff, especially for this tournament. We've seen this opening countless times already here in Poland.
And it makes sense. For instance, with the Stargate opening, the opportunity to go for whether it's Oracle or Phoenixes and try to do damage, try to poke in and really cripple them, and also try to control the matchup, generally speaking, is a good way to do it. If we don't see that opening there, then we have to expect something maybe a little bit more dramatic, because at this point in time, it is the textbook opener.
Well, Stalker coming out right off the bat here, going to be able to knock down this Overlord, so very quickly concealing what it is that he's up to. Not something you see all the time. A lot of times you just wait and get a Phoenix to take care of that, but getting the Oracle right away for some harassment while this Adept tries to get some damage done, but great defense so far from Dark.
Yeah, really good zoning here. Looks like just barely this Adept is going to get away. Right over where that third base is. Dark already expanding outwardly on the map. The Oracle is close to being unleashed on the map, and we'll have to see how many drone kills will actually occur here. Some of these good Zergs have gotten so excellent in holding that off, but Artosis, we've got a Baneling's Nest that just finished morphing.
Yeah, that's very interesting indeed. Look at the amount of Zerglings he's making. Oh, this is getting serious very quickly. 7 Banelings on the way. Dark is going all in. This probe gets in. There's a decent amount of drones here, so it might be hard for him to figure out what's going on. No, he knows Tasteless. Shield batteries galore going up.
I think seeing no Zerglings there was an immediate tell in this situation as to what's going on. And the Oracle's now coming up and spotting the first Baneling. Trap knows there has to be more than just that one Baneling there. And so Trap has a few moments to try to prepare before this bust is going to commence. And already that Oracle gunning down 1, now 2, and 3 Banelings. It looks like the bust is actually occurring. The Adepts will connect with the Banelings.
The Banelings rolling in right now. Can they get a bunch of probes? 6 probes already falling down. The shield batteries helping out immensely, though. Some Adepts getting warped in the main base here. And even though he gets 7 probes, Was this enough, really? I feel like this is a good defense so far by Trap.
I have to agree with you, Artosis. I don't think that was enough kills on workers specifically to make this attack be one we can really consider viable. Now, 2 attempted hidden banelings were morphed over in the bottom right, but already the adepts of Trap get down there and take that out. And I don't think there's a real opening now for Dark to do any more damage. And we can already see with the drones being made now that he is going to try to revert back into a macro game.
But that's a very difficult thing to do from here. Like, he spent so much money on that Zergling attack. He did so little damage, and you see a little bit of harassment coming out of Trap, not necessarily the best, but any damage, any pressure you can put onto Dark really interferes with him, you know, rebuilding his economy from here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the risk that Dark took early on, and it did not pay off. So I think Trap is going to be much more comfortable as this game progresses. Trap, area on the side of caution, does expand down here to that bottom right location, probably going for a little bit more gas-intensive builds. We have 3 Oracles here from Trap, knowing that it was just Lings and Banelings early on, and of course from there, after the rush failed, you need to make drones. So perhaps anti-air is going to be a little bit weak as these Oracles and the Phoenix come in to try to do some damage.
Well, 3 Oracles is definitely a very strong force. The Phoenix flying in, taking the hits from that Spore for a little bit, targeting down some of these drones. A good 5 drones killed already here. Looks like he will back up. I think one of the Oracles very deep in the red, but look, he gets 5 drones just for some health, some mana. This was a nice harass.
Yeah, and this definitely puts Trap in a position we have to consider more in the lead for sure. Immortal's now being pumped out, so we're in that phase. The Immortal, as far as I'm concerned, the best unit in the game, and we're seeing this unit become more and more trendy, especially in later matchups, or later areas of a matchup, as they're so versatile. And every additional Immortal that's cranked out is going to give Trap a lot more sustainability in his defense, but also the opportunity to actually push.
Well, it's definitely an important unit here, but right now, Trap double expanding or Dark rather double expanding as Trap getting some harassment done, dropping just a couple of depths, seeing how many drones he can kill off, causing a lot of lost mining time as well.
Okay, we have Dark really hunkering down now for the econ play. We're about to have a Dark on 5 bases to Trap's 3. Now, Trap is about to finish 6 gateways, so there is the opportunity to come in here for an attack. We're getting a first-person glimpse, by the way, of what Trap is doing, try to get in here and harass, and we're seeing actually 2 Oracles take it out. Now, he did get a decent number of drones, but losing some of those air units is not ideal.
Yeah, he wants to continue to put down damage, but really all that we see Dark doing right now is making drones. There hasn't been any ground pressure coming out of Dark. He's just trying to defend with a very small amount of Lings and Queens, and he's doing a pretty reasonable job of it so far.
So, when is this push going to come out? It looks like it's going to be pretty soon. We have Archons about to morph over in this location. Whoa, hold up. That's actually a bit annoying here. He unfortunately does not manage to take out, or I should say really fortunately for Trap, he does not manage to lose those Templars, so the Archons are going to morph. Now, that's the second Warp Prism coming out.
Yeah.
So we're about to see a Warp in, I would guess in the main. It could be somewhere else, as well as some pressure down here in the bottom.
Yeah,
maybe some pressure in the front instead of a Warp in. But there's a lot of angles when you're on a 5-base circuit that you can attack.
It certainly looks like Trap wants to hit multiple angles. He's coming in towards this 4th base location. He does have that additional army with the other Warp Prism. We'll see what he wants to do with that. But, you know, Dark has known about this for a bit. He saw the rest of the units walking out. He saw the Archons morphing. So he's been making nothing but units for a bit. Will it be enough to hold on, though?
Okay. We see the push coming up now. Archon being driven back just slightly. Now, this was a successful attack, and this is so impressive here by Trap because he did a lot with very little. He had a very even split on 2 different fronts, and he managed to take out that hatchery just south of this location. Now he's going to try to push in full force. Now remember, Dark did do that aggression early on, and therefore he is going to be lacking overall in army. This push seems to be pretty successful.
Yeah, it certainly is. Look at that. So many drones killed off. He's already killed a base as well. We even have some harassment down at this 3rd. Look at that. He's cleared out most everything. He's going to be able to get the Hydralisk Den as well before all the upgrades finish. Yeah, look at that. Denies the Groove Spines, and GG. Trap demolishing Dark after a failed Baneling bust.
I wonder how that game would have looked had Dark not gone for the Baneling bust. Trap was very perceptive, immediately identifying that there were no lings when that scouting worker went inside the for the natural expansion for Dark, saying, wait a minute. He sends the Oracle up there, spots the Banelings, and although the bust did occur and the main was breached, there weren't that many probes killed, and that's really the goal for the Zerg there, is to try to eliminate as many probes as possible, and ideally that will snowball with more lings and Banelings coming and crushing it. And if not, assuming the bust was successful, it doesn't matter where the game goes because you're so far ahead, you're simply producing. But Trap turned the game on its head. He was very good at holding off everything and managed to push across the map, hit in multiple locations, and eventually just run over Dark. And that can really emphasize actually how behind you are when you do a rush like that. How's everybody doing here in Poland? We are so happy to be down here. You guys have been a kick-ass audience, and this has been a kick-ass event. It's so cool that we start out with so many players, and we are getting closer and closer to having just one left.
Well, it's the biggest tournament of the year every year, and the fans definitely turn out in droves. Of course, that Net Wars community, one of the most passionate in the world about StarCraft.
Yeah, StarCraft's always been big in Poland. I remember all the way back to the Brood War days, just looking at these brackets and seeing, like in some of these LAN tournaments, how many people were showing up. And I'm thinking, oh my God, in the States, I'd have like maybe 20 people to LAN playing StarCraft. And here you're seeing sometimes over 100 people signing up and competing. And there's always just been so many good players overall. It's not like you have just one or two, it's a lot.
Certainly a long and deep history here in Poland. Looking forward to game number 2 getting started though, Tasteless, and it looks like it's ready.
We are getting ready for game number 2. This is Trap versus Dark. In a best of 5, there's still plenty of opportunities here for Dark to try to recover. Dark did go for a bust early on, and it did fail, so we'll see if he does a more conservative play this time around. In the upper right, in the blue, he is Trap. Yeah, stop making me laugh. Give it up for Trap, ladies and gentlemen. And his opponent here in the bottom left in the red, he is Dark.
All right, we'll see what Dark has up his sleeve here for Blackpink. Another big map, a lot of bases here. Definitely can go to the late game, but on the last late game map, he wasn't interested in it.
So this time, we have pool and gas right away. It is a gateway on the low ground, especially on the Protest end. This is all pretty normal, but with the probe scouting right away here and taking a look at what's going on, and now blocking this with a pylon, that's what I was waiting for a remark on. Trap is really trying to seize control of this game early on.
Yeah, and the thing is, Dark here with the gas, with the pool, this is interesting because obviously it's going to slow down his economy a little bit, and it could be something like an all-in. He could go for quick Ling drops, he could go for a Roach Warren, he could go for a Baneling bust, he could just go for Zergling speed. There's a lot of different plays that he could do from here. But Trap, or rather Dark, is someone who sometimes gets quick Zergling speed and then just goes into a macro game. He just kind of throws his opponent off by keeping that map a dark, scary place.
So Cybernetics Core about halfway done here. This map, of course, quite different from the previous one. You don't have any free expansions, and a lot of the battles later on this map are themed around the third base, because there's one over here that we're seeing a shot of. There's some easy ways to defend that, and we do see some plays attempted to deny acquiring that expansion. And then there's a base over here that's in a bit of a, I guess you could call it a pit, with a ramp going down to it. And there are ways to access that. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. For instance, here we see that you can try to tear down these rocks and try to access that. Now, that could be a theme on either side of the map, for the Zerg or for the Protoss, depending on who tries to leverage what during this game.
Well, you know, that probe did force the further away expansion there by Dark. It's not really going to make that big of a difference, though, as he is going to have Zergling speed so quickly. Leigh actually getting inside and getting a pretty solid scout here. Sees that there's a Stargate on the way, so That's a lot of information. You know, just to know the Stargate, know the timing of it, he'll be able to really minimize drone losses as it expands.
So we have the first Oracle on the way. We'll see how much damage this actually does. Keep in mind, in the last game, we had several Oracles made, and Trap actually got a little bit clumsy with them, lost a couple early on. The Adept's now going to try to poke out and see, are there any Lings actually out here on the map? Is there anything that he can try to cover? And he shaded back, not shading forward or anything like that, because he actually wants to try to turtle for this phase of the game. Yeah,
well, right now, this is what we were kind of talking about, where Dark can go into a macro game from here, but just the fact that he went for such an early gas, that he got these speedlings, Trap is being very careful. If he gets out here and suddenly a bunch of Zerglings or Roaches or something like that surround these two Adepts, he'll probably lose the game. So he's waiting for the Oracle to come with him. That's kind of like the Adept bodyguard. These three units together will kill a lot of Zerglings if you're going for that all-in play.
You're completely right, Artosis. This Oracle is here to escort the Adepts to move out. You know, whenever you see Ling speed early on, a lot of it's to just deny anything that moves out on the map and punish somebody who's trying to be too liberal with their units in the early game. And I think that was smart of Trap to try to respect that.
Well, Roach Horn is on the way right now. Robotics as well as Twilight over on Trap's side. This could lead into something like an Archon drop, maybe some charge pressure with that as well. Of course, there are Glaive all-ins with your Adepts. And you can just take a third base as well. You know, just kind of getting these additional buildings before his third base, I find to be like a smart, somewhat conservative move by Trap. The fact that Dark, you know, kind of made his economy a little bit slower allows Trap to play in a careful way.
Okay, good job here by Trap. 3 drones gunned down, and also forcing all the drones off the minerals for a little bit. And that's the best at this point in time in a game like this the Protoss can ask for, as far as trying to lean on the Zerg and keep the Zerg honest. We're now seeing more gateways come up. Zealot Leg starting, a Templar Archives on the way, and we'll most certainly have Archons coming in here too.
Yeah, like he can get very aggressive with this. He's going up to 6 gates total. If he wants to like really go all in with it, we'll see him add a couple more gates. Otherwise, this Nexus that he just started up, he can make some probes, you know, send them over there, get his economy going, but still not only feel safe, but be able to put on some counter pressure with this charge and with some Archons.
Third base coming down. Templars beginning to warp in. And this combination of having those Zealots and Adepts early on lets you bank up enough gas to then really get the muscle of your army, which is those Archons. And this is where it becomes problematic for Zerg to engage, because at the right angle, the Archons can do so much splash damage, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, they're just so strong against the Zerglings. It's a really big deal. Look at this, nice harassment by Dark, finally utilizing that Zergling speed for something other than map control, killing a couple probes, forcing a warp in at home as well. But here comes the Archon drop.
Okay, or not. It's not actually coming out of the warp prism yet. We're still waiting to see. It looks like he wants to come over here, drop these off in the main. Now, we're probably not going to see a Zealot warp in. We've talked about this before in StarCraft matches, but because the Archon is all shields, as long as it's not physically killed, you're basically doing 100% damage, and when the shields regen, you haven't lost anything to Protoss.
And those shields regen very, very quickly once it's not under attack, so it's like an awesome way to harass your opponent, but when you get enough Roaches, you got to be careful. You have to really pick it up quickly. The Roaches will kill the Archon pretty quickly overall, and you have to be making Immortals at home. This is such an important part of this, because the army of Dark is just getting very large and scary.
So, we have the Hydralisk Den about halfway done. The Hydras are the real damage dealers. It's so, in a way similar to what the Archons are doing for the Protoss. The Archons, with everything else in front of them, can wipe out so much. And the Hydras, it's the same way. However, the Hydras are quite brittle. And you have to have Roaches or Lings or something else in front of them A lot of times that's why we see Hydra Bane be so strong. The Banelings blow up everything initially, and the Hydras shoot fast enough and do enough damage that everything else is mowed down after that.
Yeah, the Hydras don't have like a lot of health. If you get on top of them with Zealots or maybe Psystorm, then they're going to die quickly, but their damage output is so strong. That's why he's making quite a few of them right now. But Psystorm is on the way, 2 Immortals at a time for Trap. He's really trying to transition into this very strong mid-game army.
I think Dark's asserted himself pretty effectively on the map, on the 4 bases. This is a little bit different from the last game where we saw Dark behind and do a expansion gambit where he tries to overexpand, hoping that Trap won't react in time. This time, Dark really respecting the momentum that Trap has in this game. And at the same time, Trap really erring on the side of caution. He's not overextending. Yeah. He's in a 1-0 lead. Especially in a best of 5, you really do want to win that second game. You're in a much more comfortable spot.
Well, it feels like if you win the first 2 games and they're on these big maps, I think that as Trap, you're going to feel like you have broken Dark's back. You've broken his will at that point. It's going to be very difficult for any player to come back and go 3-0 in a row right there.
So, Dark is trying to crack open this area and give access to the soon-to-be 4th base. We do see Trap moving into position. And I think we may have a full-on engage. I think it was actually wise for Dark to back off with the Immortals and the Templars there. Okay, I think he's actually going to try to hit either 2 locations at once or maybe going around for a surround here. So he's splitting his army up. Now, the placement of the Immortals, Cannons, Templars, Archons as well is really good. And I'm actually, just as an observer here, I'm looking at this and saying, I think this should be pretty tough for Zerg to break, but let's find out. This attack is coming in now. 4 Immortals driving back those Roaches. The Roaches would be gunned down so quickly the Hydras would die immediately afterwards.
Yeah, especially with that Psystorm just kind of waiting there. So very strong forces on both sides. A great army split by Trap, but Dark is maxed out, so he has to push right now. Going forward, going after these Immortals. He gets 1 so far. The Cannons tanking a lot of damage here as well. The shield batteries finally using up their energy, and still quite a bit of Hydras left over.
We see now Trap moving across the map. He's hoping to engage this army that's on the side, realizing that Dark has given up the center upper middle, I should say, position. Again, though, Trap being very cautious. It is worth pointing out, Dark is still on 4 bases. We're not seeing Dark explode or expand anymore. And in some sense, Trap doesn't have to do that much until Dark expands further. Nice catch here with the Phoenix, seeing that there's the opportunity for drops over here at the top. And I think Dark is going to think twice before making this move now.
Yeah, Dark has to be careful. He does have another Hydra drop going towards the natural. Right now, Trap trying to zone out these armies. Dark is split up into 4 or 5 different areas. Look at this. Here's one area. He has a drop going towards the main as well. He has a drop going towards the 3rd base, and he has a frontal attack. Dark all over the place with his army.
It looks like Trap's trying to come in here and sandwich this attack. We have a Hydra drop over here where those workers are. Dark hitting, I believe, 4 different locations at once, now pulling away with his main army. Even though Trap will hold this attack off, I'm curious to see how much damage the drops will do when it's all said and done. We're getting close to 20 probes being killed off.
Yeah, that is significant. He's also forced a lot of warp-ins here in the main base. Those units are not helping the rest of his army in these battles. A drop going into the natural now. Oh, the Zealot's being pulled away right before he drops. This is a big deal for Dark.
Okay, already up to 25 workers gunned down in this moment. That makes the worker count overall 43 to 70. And now Dark tries to expand, hoping that his Trap's trying to reassemble his economy. There's an opportunity for Dark to grow a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger.
Trap right now walking down the ramp, getting ready to do his counterattack. Dark is only on 4 bases. He must hold all of his spaces. He cannot be losing anything right now. Some good force fields go down, Psystorms as well. Dark backing up. Still, though, the Hydra's dealing so much damage. 40 probes have fallen.
We see the storms coming down now. Dark actually getting a pretty superior position here. Although the Immortals are pretty strong, especially when the army is angled at a ramp. Dark is actually really diminishing the supply right now. Trap, 81 to 134. The push continues further over here. It's paramount that Dark tries to hold this position.
Trap really bringing all of his units to bear. Even the Oracle joining the fight. The Singing Prism comes in. So many Immortals here. Some great juggling micro going on. Picking up the herd Immortals from the front. Utilizing their shields. Just beautifully done by Trap as he begins to break through Dark.
The hatchery is going down. Dark in a very bad position, perhaps too aggressive early on. Unable to do enough. Trap is coming in for the punishment. The very bottom center base is isolated. We see small Hydra harasses trying to distract Trap, but it's just not working. With this push coming down here now, there are so many different ways that Trap can try to close this game.
Oh man, Dark coming up the hill right now. He wants to fight again, but a recall goes off. He's going to be able to kill off at least a couple Immortals there before the rest get home. But you know what? He killed the fully mining base of Dark and the new hatchery. He didn't have drones there yet, but he did knock that out. So Dark is knocked back kind of into the Stone Age as far as his economy goes. The same, though, can be said about Trap, who lost a lot of probes to those Hydra drops.
Also, several Immortals picked off in the big fight. He's going to have to remake those, too. I really respect Trap's play here because he did not overextend. Instead, he actually went back home, and he's trying to rinse and repeat. Now, we just had a pause. Why, I'm not entirely sure. But the position right now for Dark is a very difficult one. He either has to counterattack and really shut down Trap. That's hard to do with the unit composition that Trap has. You're very comfortable as Protoss turtling.
Yeah. Well, I think it is very difficult, as you say, even though that there is Hive tech. His +3 attack was canceled off there. And I think that Trap has the right idea. He did the damage, and then he goes home. If he secures all his mineral patches again, his economy will last a very long time since he lost those probes. His mineral patches are nowhere near done. So just re-secure everything, kind of rebuild your army, remake some of these Immortals you lost in that fight, get some more Storm in there, a few more Zealots, a few more Archons, and you're going to be good to go. This is a super strong army when facing this kind of layer tech play.
I have to say, Trap's defense has been stellar throughout this series. We've seen two different games, both of which Dark tried to really punish the Protoss. One with that Ling Baneling bust early on. Trap held that and also scouted that very easily. On the other hand, Dark trying to actually attack in 4 different locations at once in the late game, dropping in locations with Hydras to gun down probes, at the same time using his Hydras and Roaches to hit all these different areas. And although Trap did lose a lot, he actually handled it well enough to then, in this tug of war on the map, go all the way across and actually take out not 1 but 2 bases. And when Zerg's on 5 bases to go down to 3, that's horrible. It's not enough to function on.
Well, you need super high-tech units to make that work. You either need like a lot of spellcasters, maybe some broodlords, something like that. But he's sitting here playing on an army that you need a lot of macro for. You know, you need a big economy to keep making Roaches and Hydras.
Okay, so we're back in this match. We see a few Hydras coming down here now. He's trying to take out additional probes if he can. That's very important for Trap. Before this other big attack comes up here, that he is able to keep as many workers mining and alive as possible. Dark is trying to double expand here and play catch up and try to utilize drops as much as he can. But good scouting with the Warp Prism of all units to just check this location. He sees this warp-in happening. And there's just not that much that Dark can really do in this moment.
Phenomenal usage of that Warp Prism, really. He can't really harass at the moment. He's just trying to stabilize. So scouting it is. Warps in those Stalkers. He's safe in his main base. He is going to have to make a move relatively soon, though. We do see a few Broodlords finally being morphed. Dark, though, doesn't have a big enough economy to make like an overwhelming amount quite yet. This is still a situation where Dark has to be careful. He has to be defensive, because if he moves out with this slow-moving army, Trap can suddenly appear and kill another base.
It's quite unfortunate that the Broodlords are morphing literally where the Observer is. It seems like Trap's actually figured out where the rally point is for the hatches.
Sure.
Kept his Observer there. Really nice play here by Trap. Yeah, the Broodlords are really out of necessity for not losing the game, not to win the game, at least right now, because Trap shut down those bases. Although, in fairness, I would say Dark has really reassembled an economy pretty quickly. It seemed like we didn't jump right back into the unpause. There was maybe about a half a minute before we went there, but the moment we came back in the game, I actually thought we had rewinded for a second.
Well, it's that same Overlord drop over and over, right?
Right, yeah, no, at first I was like, wow, okay, well, I don't even know why we're rewinding, but no, actually Dark just re-expanded and droned up so well, and is actually ahead in supply.
Now, this is kind of interesting because he knows a lot of Broodlords are being made. So he's getting Blink. That's kind of an anti-Broodlord tactic here, right? If you can cut through that ground army, you can blink underneath and kill it. He's also getting the Dark Shrine, which is going to be very, very helpful. You know, just when you use Broodlords, it's kind of a death ball. So harassment-based play is going to be strong. But this was a great Warp Prism pickoff by Dark.
So, the question now is, can Trap try to actually move out on the map? You can only be shut down so many times as Zerg before your income dries up, and there are no more opportunities. But as you were saying, Artosis, Dark is the best at playing from behind.
Yeah, he doesn't really care about his drone count that much. Like, the army he's assembled right now is a really fearsome one, and it has a real chance to beat Dark's army, or Trap's army, rather. I feel like Trap right now, he needs to play like Dark just was, right? Dark is the one that has this scary force that's hard to kill. So until his Tempests are out, we need to see Trap hit multiple spots. You see he's split off these Zealots. Dark found it. Okay, run the Zealots away. Send something else somewhere else. You have to hit multiple locations to spread Dark out, to make it hard for him to defend with those slow Broodlords.
Nice play here with the DT, coming in and shredding a few drones. 4 down so far. And these are some of the few moments where we can see Trap really try to do damage in a game where Dark now, especially with the Broodlords, is tougher to engage. Now, as Dark grows, it should be noted that Protoss doesn't actually have to try to directly fight the Broodlords. You can always fight wherever the Broodlords are not, and that's how a lot of games get closed out here in a PvZ.
Well, it's a good way to play, especially when you're making these Tempests. Because when he has enough Tempests to really punish these Broodlords, then suddenly he has the better unit composition again, and it becomes hard for Dark to do anything. But Dark is pushing right now. He wants to get this done. It's a good time. There's only a couple Tempests out, so that's going to take a while to kill off the Broodlords.
We see Trap beginning to move down here. Dark with a full-on engage, though, coming in here and taking out this base, and it almost seems like either Trap too slow or willing to sack this position, loses that, and we're now going to a 6-base Zerg versus a 3-base Trap.
There is a little bit of harassment going on. I mean, we see those Zealots doing okay, but yeah, that was kind of a free kill there by Dark. Now, Dark turning and fighting, utilizing that huge volley of Broodlings from the Broodlord to push everything back, almost killing off an Archon here. Every unit matters for Trap right now.
I gotta say, I'm blown away by how good Dark is in this late game situation. It looks like that initial big attack we had almost never happened. The Tempests are coming up now. We see Storms blanketing this area, although Dark does a pretty good job outmaneuvering it. With the Corruptors hitting these Tempests faster than the Tempests can really hit the Broodlords, it seems like air dominance is going to go to Zerg.
Well, that is a problem. Those Corruptors doing a great job. Nice micro here by Dark. Oh, awesome. Corrosive Biles coming down as well. Trap turns. He has to fight right now. A ton of Psy Storms blanketing everything.
We see the Stalkers blinking up to try to get the Broodlords. Trap continuing to push up. Only about 4 more Broodlords remain. A very soft ground army below them. Only 3 more Stalkers left. It looks like just barely. Trap will hang on.
Trap kills off that entire army. Suddenly, Dark has to run away. A lot of Hydras being made, making another Broodlord, but his economy isn't that big. He's run out of gas.
At this moment, Trap should be able to push out and punish, similar to the attacks that we saw early on. Dark is trying to reassemble a proper tech to engage this, but on the ground, especially with the Archon and Immortals and enough sentries for force fields to dice up the Zerg army, this should work out very well for Trap.
Oh, these Blink Stalkers being very clutch right now, blinking on top of some of these units. The Broodlord dealing some damage from the side, but look at those Immortals cutting through absolutely everything right now.
We see Dark continuing to try to hang on. It just doesn't seem like it's enough of any specific unit to combo well to engage this. Now, Trap is directly in the center of the Zerg territory. Units are going to be coming from all sides, but that's actually not ideal right now because of the way the rally points would be set up. And with this base going down, Trap, okay, he actually beat me to what I was going to say. I was going to ask, does he go to the upper left, or I should say center left? Does he go down, or does he recall? And he went for the recall.
Well,
try to regroup.
It's a solid recall. He killed off most of the army, only had his Immortals left, finished a base, went home. Now he has to rebuild his actual army. He needs some anti-air in here as well. There's at least one Broodlord. Definitely there's a lot of Corruptors around to make more if he gets that money as well.
Okay, coming in and hitting this hatchery immediately. Now, there are some Hydras here, and actually not a ton to get in front of these Immortals, but with the Broodlord and the Hydras, he might just barely be able to hold this position. Unfortunately, that hatchery already being taken out there. Another small victory for Trap, and notice he's picking his battles very wisely. Yeah. He's not overextending here. It's also, it should be noted, it's ambiguous where the supplies are for both sides when they look at each other's play. Obviously, if you're at 120 or 94 and you're now over 20 minutes into the game, you know you could have a lot more and so could your opponent. But it seems like Trap has a very good read on exactly how much his army can do before he has to go back and regroup. And if he keeps doing this over and over again, I think he should eventually win this game.
Well, it's been a slugfest on both sides. They both have these kind of scrappy armies. We're 22 minutes in. You know, they're having a hard time getting to 150 supply at this point. But being so efficient, being so mobile is Trap here. Running around, he's opening up some paths, he's clearing up creep. These are great things to do right now because Dark is forced to turtle.
We see Trap now moving down. There's a decent amount of Banelings here. If the Zealots can try to avoid all connecting with these Banes, it's possible Trap might be able to push through. Trap Zealots coming down now, taking out the Spine Crawler. The Broodlords, however, still in a very good position. Hard to engage with Stalkers, hard to storm. And now we see Trap blinking under, targeting down 2 of those Broods already.
Yeah, I don't know about that, though. Blinking under into those Hydras is a dangerous move. So many units coming out, even drones and Zerglings fighting, trying to pick off these very expensive Immortals. The Broodlords come forward. Trap has to turn around and run.
We see Trap backing up. Was that an overextension? Oh my God! 17 drones killed. Beautiful play here by Trap. Now let's keep in mind, this base here, can we go back to that bottom base, please? This base and then the one to the right of this are the only locations that you can feasibly mine from. Now it's only 34 drones in the game right now, so Trap may be trying to focus all of his attention on this bottom base. Despite how much of the map is occupied by blue and red, there are very few attacking units in this game.
It is so true, but look at this mobility of Trap, killing off yet another hatchery, utilizing those +3 Immortals and their massive amounts of damage here. The Blink Stalkers, of course, can be useful as well. They never really have to fully engage, but now his Immortals all gone. These Corruptors, a nice move by Dark, trying to utilize them to take down a base, but Trap is too quick, warps in those Stalkers in defense.
A big victory here for Dark. However, this base is more of a positional, more positional in value than it really is a location to mine resources. And even there, Trap manages, it looks like, to defend, but with Broodlords, that might change.
Oh, he's got to pick off these Hydras. It's very tough to kill off the Broodlords with Hydras underneath. Look at that damage output from this tiny army that Dark has. Just really reading the situation that he can push with, look at this, it's like 5 red Hydras and 2 Broods. And he decides that 25 minutes in, he can attack Dark.
Okay, the Stalkers come in. Right now, the Broodlords, the most valuable units that Dark has. One is taken out. Again, Trap trying to decide exactly where and how to engage. Dark trying to sneak this base out. However, Trap is very steadily moving into that territory. And I think now with this bottom base about to be hit. Okay, great play. Takes out the Broodlord, and he doesn't overextend.
Yes.
He backs up.
Well, the Stalkers are such a good unit. When you get to tiny economies late game in Protoss vs. Zerg, there's just not enough units to overwhelm Stalkers, which is why you don't normally see them. Huge max armies, the Stalkers won't be any good, but here when they're just running around, picking off stray units, clearing creep, killing a hatchery that's on the fringe of your base, they are invaluable.
I can't emphasize enough how good those Dark Templars were, going in there and taking out those drones. It might have been, on appearance, the least dramatic thing that was happening, but taking out that many workers, knocking Dark down to 33 drones. In a game where, you know, when you have your tech tree finished like this, you can get so big army-wise. Losing any large number of workers really hurts, especially when we're getting down to sub-100 supply games on both sides, because there's been so many battles.
I mean, this game is just wild. We saw there on that units lost tab. It's crazy the amount of high-end units that have died. And at this point, it's more about just making something that can fight. That's why we see them reverting to these lower techs. A lot of Roaches and Hydras out, occasionally a DT for harassment, a lot of Stalkers on the other side. I mean, this game is just bonkers.
I think Dark actually might be starved for Overseers because we're seeing a lot of DTs roam pretty liberally through the bases here.
Oh my God, look at this. Lurkers for the first time this game, Tasteless. This is a great response to seeing this many Stalkers. Stalkers can't fight Lurkers. It's impossible.
It's true. They're very bad against that unit. So this is a smart move here by Dark to try to just counter the small number of units that Trap has in this game. We've actually gotten the worker count down to 28 now. Now, keep in mind, they don't have a ton of bases that they're actually mining from on both sides. It's just Trap mining from the very northern base, where it's Dark mining from these two southern bases. But losing any more workers in this means you can't even saturate your own one expansion.
Well, look at this zoning defense from Dark. He's brought his Lurkers over. He's basically brought all of his army. And Trap gonna split units. He's gonna keep kind of his Death Ballish army on the defense. He's gonna walk back so that Dark can't just go counterattack. And the Stalkers are gonna walk around because you can't really catch them. Unless we had like fungal growth here, those Stalkers will always get away.
Now Trap with the 4 Templars here, 3 Archons, 2 Immortals, and a few Zealots to add in. It's a tough army to engage. And notice how he split that off from the Stalkers. The Stalkers are nimble enough that they can always do damage and most likely escape. You can see just right here, the moment the Trap sees those Hydras, he just runs, while this other army from Trap is actually there to try to intercept maybe a counterattack.
Yeah, this is super cool what we're watching. Look at this, trying to battle the Stalkers, but hey, you can't really chase them down because they'll blink away. He waits for the cooldown, re-engages, gets out of there when Dark turns.
Artosis, how cool is this? We see an Oracle being made. Now, is there actually defense? Can we get a shot of the workers before this attack happens? The drones, I should say, at the southern base? The expansion. I don't think there's not a ton to defend. Yeah, exactly, right here. There's nothing to stop an Oracle from going in there and killing drones.
Yeah, that would be a great move as well. Don't forget that you can use Revelation, tag those Lurkers, and try to dive on top of them, especially if you get some sort of flank on them. But the thing is, Adaptive Talon's just finished, so Dark can pop those in and out of the ground so quickly, he can start dodging anything that happens after him.
Okay, we have Trap trying to move down here. I don't know if he can actually breach that location with the Lurkers. Some of that's going to depend on where the Hydras are, and for instance, if the Observer's gone down or anything else like that. So what Trap's doing is taking a free attack over here. It would be up to Dark to try to run in here and defend.
Oh my God, this Oracle just sitting there right now. Will it get picked off? Okay, gets flown away. In the meantime, just running around, running away from these Lurkers, but look how quick they can burrow. Burrow down, kill a Stalker. But Trap is too quick, he backs out.
Now, Trap is taking another base just over here to the top. Dark also spotting that at the same time that we do. There are 2 issues here for Dark, besides trying to stop Protoss from expanding. He needs to defend both the bottom locations, but also there are opportunities for Trap to try to go into the main and start blowing up the tech. And especially when you have Lurkers in the game, you have to really pick and choose where you're going to defend.
Oh man, those Lurkers burn so quick, he has to back up immediately.
Got the Observer too.
Oh, very nice indeed. I believe he still has the Oracle.
He has one over here. I think that's the only one with the army.
Did he lose the Oracle? No, he still does have the Oracle. Okay, so that is still a really good form of detection against those Lurkers as well, if that's how he wants to use it. A single DT kind of guarding that new Nexus. That new Nexus is an important area. And where are you going, Mr. Immortal?
Okay, nice tag on the Lurkers. The Lurkers probably the most important units to monitor in this game. Again, DTs for the win here. Trap knowing that because this is such a scrappy game, there's a limited number of Overseers. In this case, the Overseers with the army. Now, this could be risky from Dark, but because of the position of the buildings, it's going to be very hard to try to come in here and actually save this efficiently.
Look at those Archons just having such a hard time getting on top of them, but the Psy Storms go down. The Lurkers get a lot of great shots, but get cleared out, and Dark with so little left over.
I'm not sure that was worth it for Dark, even though he got the Robo. I think it might have been more valuable to keep the Lurkers up for defense and maybe try to do something different like counterattack the top. Of course, it's very hard to really map this out effectively because so many things have happened in this game. Oracle goes down. Trap, after taking those Lurkers out, is going to try to continue to push down towards the bottom.
Now look at this. He lost the Lurkers, yes, but he killed almost every Archon. Only one left over. And we see him making quite a few Zerglings now. That's going to help a lot. Without the Archons there, these Zerglings are much more powerful.
Oh, a bit of a poor engage here from Trap, having some of those Zealots picked off. The very top expansion from Trap is, oh no, I'm sorry, it's going to just barely be saved. Had that been taken out, Trap would be in a lot more jeopardy, but I think now Dark's going to have to devote all of his resources to try to defend this base, and that he can't, Artosis.
I think that is about the 5th time we've seen that hatchery die off. He recalls out, loses some of his expensive units there, picking off that base, but I would say definitely worth it. Dark doesn't even have the money to remake a hatchery right now. His economy is so tiny.
This is such a cool game because the economies have been so hurt for so long that we're seeing armies that look like it would be sort of early on in a game matter incredibly with a map where there's so much that both players are trying to control. And this is actually quite big, taking out the cybernetics here, considering how important Stalkers have been in this series.
I don't think he has adrenaline on those Lings, to be honest. I mean,
yeah.
Trying to kill off as many buildings as he can here. He's going to force some warp-ins, force some units to come back home. I believe he still has the Drop Lords up in the center, so maybe he can actually save these Lings. Not sure if he even remembers that now. This game has been so crazy, you start to forget what you have and where it is.
Can we get a quick, before this fight, can we get a quick shot of the bottom center base? I just want to see the number of minerals. Okay, so it's one patch. Oh, snow patch. GG. That's one way to end the game.
All right.
That's not, as the last mineral from the last base is mined, Dark confirms that there's no way to win that game, and you could see the relief on Trap's face. That was a nail biter.
Well,
from the start to the finish.
No one knew who was going to win that game for a long time, but that was magnificently played from both sides. A truly scrappy game, showing the level of the Protoss and Zerg play on both sides. But now we have Trap leading Tasteless 2-0.
We talked before this match started about Trap being one of the best Protosses. Everybody knows that. He's here to redefine himself as the best Protoss. And taking Dark out at best of 5 is certainly a good way to start.
Well, I mean, going into that round of 8, that is certainly an awesome place to be. Trap looking to get to another IEM Katowice finals, and going up 2-0 on Dark, the strongest Zerg from the last several years, is a great way to do it. Can Dark come back? He has to go 3-0 from here. Now, to be honest, like the first game, right, he did a Baneling bust. It didn't really work. Trap played well from there, and Dark wasn't able to come back. Okay, that's fine, right? You try a rush, it doesn't work. A lot of times you're just going to lose after that. This second game, though, I felt like Dark played very well. This was close. It could have gone either way. Yes, Trap wins in the end, but should Dark be feeling like he can't win games here against Trap? I don't think so.
So in game number 2, everything was looking like a very high level, but standard ZVP. We saw Dark gear the whole game up to what I generally would be the climax, where he attacked 4 different locations at once, 2 drops, as well as 2 different ground armies, try and hit Protoss, and hoping that that overall does more damage, whether it's to the economy or the army, and it's enough to end the game. But Trap actually held, counterattacked, Dark held, Dark gets to Broodlords, there's a skirmish in the map, there are so many workers lost. I believe they're both floating at about 34 workers.
Yeah.
And they were doing that for a while. Actually, I guess I should say for the rest of the game. There's little skirmishes over the various expansions they have, as well as occasional dive-ins to try to take out certain tech structures. And it was Trap that just managed to weather that game. Dark got the bases up, but Trap shut down that last additional base enough times that when we saw those minerals dry up, Dark taps out. It's a game where we see one player leave, not because of any one big fight, but because enough times pass, he doesn't have any more resources to play. Introducing our player in the red. He needs to turn this series around with a 3-0. He is Dark. His opponent in the blue with a 2-0 lead. Make some noise for Trap!
Ooh, just such a great series thus far. I cannot wait to see what they will pull out here in game number 3. Just the tactics, the strategies, the micro, the macro. It's been superb. And here we have Dark once again going for the pool and the gas before his hatchery.
I have to say, if I were Dark, I would be feeling pretty uncomfortable in game 3 because both game 1 and 2, he chose to go very different paths. And Trap seemed to handle it quite nicely. You know, like if you, let's say you do something like game 1, you do that Ling Baneling aggression and it doesn't work. But in game 2, you really do crush it with a macro game. Then you might say, okay, let's try to navigate this to a macro game that's somehow more favorable to me. Or maybe I've actually re-identified the mistakes that he makes as he tries to tech up, and there's some kind of window timing attack I can do to come in there and shut him down. Honestly, Trap looks solid in the basics and in the complex.
Yeah.
In PvZ. So this is going to be a tough one for Dark, and I really don't know how he wants to approach this.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but with this quick Zergling speed, he's going to clean up the map very quickly. It's going to be Dark for Trap. We should see something similar from Trap, where he gets his Adepts. He's not really leaving his base until he has an Oracle. Maybe he grabs a Phoenix to clean up Overlords because of the possibility of Speedling drops. But obviously, Trap is going to have to play defensively for a little bit.
We see that first Adept being produced. It's a Stargate opener. I think that definitely makes sense for how Trap's games have gone. The Stargate is really what's won him in the game in both the games we saw between these two, because Dark was scouted with that first Oracle, and I thought he did a great job just overall in the second game, staying on top of the movements of Dark. And that's really one of the things that the Stargate helps you with. Just having the air units there and present allows you to have a much better idea of what's going on the map.
It's very, very true. Now, look at this. He has his Stalker out, so this is a defensive play in some ways as well, right? He picks off the Overlord. This can also prevent other Overlords from coming in and dropping their Zerglings. You can kind of gun them down before the Stalker dies if a slow Overlord suicides in to, you know, get those Zerglings into your base. So, you know, he's playing defensively so far. Where do they both go, though? I'm really interested in Dark's overall game plan. Is he going to turn on the aggression at some point? Because I could see Dark is an aggressive Zerg, even though we are always talking about his late game because he's so creative and so good at it. This is a player that also will just go all in a high percentage of the time because he's so good at that as well.
You know, Trap has reacted so perfectly in this series. It's really impressive. His PvZ is better than, honestly, I've ever seen it before, and he was always a great PvZ player. So let's see what happens as the Oracle comes in. I think just based off how this series is, it's going to be a lot less about, oh, he gets 3 drones here, or he spots this tech, but really so much more about movement, counterattacks. You know, can you actually, for instance, in the last game, we saw a DT, well, actually, I think it was several DTs, constantly going and kill drones. And I want to say it was something like around 30 or 40 drones killed off. If we added all the DT snipes that were done there. And that was one of many moves that Trap did to win that game. So many StarCraft 2 games do come down to, oh, he wasn't ready for this attack, or the Terran stims in and Siege Tank Siege up, the other guy isn't ready, that game ends. Okay, very straightforward. We can identify that moment. Here, because of how back and forth that game was, I'm expecting it to be as equally complex if it is a victory, no matter who comes out on top.
Okay. You know, the third base coming up right now. The Glaive's on the way just off of 3 gates, so he's going to put on some harassment. And considering he's already killed a good 5 probes, oh, and he doesn't lose the Oracle either. I like this play quite a bit. You see a lot of Zerglings being made. That Hydralisk Den, this is a pretty quick Hydralisk Den overall. But with Glaive to depths and double Robo on the way, I don't mind where Trap's at here.
Okay, Adept's going to come forward, most certainly going to cancel that shade there, but keeping the Zerg honest.
Okay, another shade up right now, just keeping that pressure on.
So we're at the point in time where with the double Robos coming up here. This is an interesting commitment here by Trap. Is it an overextension? We're seeing some of these Lings get picked off, but already these Adepts going to try to shade now, I believe, over here to the natural. They cancel, and he's going to recall them home. It's kind of cool how with Adept shade and recall, there's so many maneuver techniques you can have.
Your Adepts don't ever really have to die.
That's right. It's a good way to really pressure the Zerg as well. And while that was all going on, the third Nexus is finished. We're seeing more gateways come up here, as well as the Warp Prism. Over here for Dark, Evo Chamber coming down, a few more Hydras being produced. And I'm expecting to see Dark probably expand. Where, I'm not exactly sure. Does he take that upper right base? Does he take this middle one by the StarCraft World Champion logo? You know, because a lot of that's going to force Trap to decide how exactly he wants to attack.
Well, double Immortal production coming out right now from Trap, just kind of setting up all of his defense. Dark even knocking down his own rocks while he does create his Hydralisks, getting that Baneling Nest as well, and that's very, very important. The type of army that Trap is making right now would do very well against just Hydraling, but when you start mixing in Banelings, those Adepts have a bit of a harder time. You really need to rely heavily upon Force Field to keep them alive, and that's not really doable when you get into a bigger game.
Okay, Oracle continuing to scout here, is just checking the upper right. I believe we have a drone that's about to plant a hatch. Okay, we just saw that hatch go down in the upper right while this Warp Prism is coming in.
The Prism, oh, it does get off its payload of a couple of Adepts here.
So he's going to pick those up and just try to move out now. Now with Dark seeing the Warp Prism, there's going to be a little asterisk in this game as he has to note that that Warp Prism can always fly in and warp in units. And if I'm Dark in this spot, I'm thinking, okay, I'm taking the upper right base. He's probably going to attack that. And with seeing the Warp Prism just outside the main, he's probably going to try to warp in my main and then hit in the upper right. So how do I get ready for that? How many Hydras do I need to split? Where do I put them to stop something like that from happening?
Well, I think leaving a few Hydras in your main base to prevent that Prism is a very, very important thing to do. That's one of the things that Protoss can truly hurt you with. And just the fact that he's getting Baneling speed and melee upgrades, I like that. Like Psystorm is on the way, which is going to be kind of the spell that can keep Trap alive against this type of army. But as Baneling speed finishes, Dark's army becomes extremely scary and not something that I think you can attack into right now.
So we have the Nexus in the bottom left being made. And actually Trap very passive this game. Not committing to too much of anything. And I actually think it's going to be Dark who might try to attack in here first. We see 15 Banelings on the way, already a very large number of Hydras. I think actually Dark seeing that, okay, nothing's occurred yet. I'm mining from my fourth. Maybe it's time for me to try to do a Hydra Baneling bust here.
Well, there's quite a few Banelings being made, that's for sure. Knocking down these rocks. Looks like Trap wants to close the door on a lot of attack areas. A very good tag right there on the Hydra, seeing where they're coming in. This base is not going to be holdable. He just needs to cancel this immediately.
Yep, and I think this was a smart decision here. I think Trap realizing, okay, Hydra Bane, this game can end right away. Actually, I think it seems like Dark maybe not controlling his army ideally.
Yeah.
Hemorrhaging some of those units. Really, I think without a plan, that was just bad control back there.
It seemed like he wanted to flank, but he lost a bunch of Hydras on the high ground.
Well, there were some units running away, and then there were some units that were just seeming to right-click in. I wouldn't be surprised if he has his army on several different hotkeys, different groups to try to come in and engage at different angles. So now Dark says, okay, I've got a fourth base. I have these Banelings. I can always use them to defend. maybe I stay back and wait and see what Trap does. And as I finish that thought, he actually takes a 5th as well. So Trap's being really modest here.
I think both of them showing a lot of respect for each other.
Also a lot of restraint.
Yeah. Ooh, nice pick off there on the Prism. This Warping won't do anything, but this kind of respect where neither of you are attacking each other, you see what your opponent's doing, and you realize, if I try to attack and he plays well, he'll destroy my attack. And that's true on both sides. You can't walk onto the creep and go fight against this. And Dark, even though he got into position for it, realized that, oh god, there's enough Psy Storms and Immortals here, this might not go well. So both of them continuing to tech up. A Mothership on the way, the Hive Inspire on the way for Dark.
So the way that the Protoss is expanded out means that drops are going to be a lot stronger, especially big, is what some casters call Doom drops into the main, because it's Protoss completely hugging the bottom center. Whereas in the last map, it was more of a quadrant that Protoss controlled. So I think we're going to have a big drop here in the main.
Well, these are Banelings, so it looks like he's
that's actually going to be in the probe line.
Yeah, a couple probe lines going to get bombed here by these Banelings. +2 is on the way, but it's not going to be done by the time he gets out here. Look at this, the 2 Phoenixes catching this Overlord, but with the Baneling speed, he's still going to be able to get in and get some probes.
Now, okay, actually 8 probes taken out here. Not bad. I would not say it's the most impactful thing that's going to happen in this game, but Dark is actually expanding more and more and more. We see a 6th base being taken in the center right here. And I think Dark's realizing, all right, Trap, if you stay back, I am going to gobble up the entire north half of the map. Yeah. And now we see Trap move out.
Okay, it is time. If your opponent is going for the Greater Spire and you do not have your Tempest Tech up yet, which is generally the case, you got to attack. This army that Trap has, if controlled correctly, can deal with what Dark has, but it's very difficult, especially on creep.
Okay, there's a lot of Banelings here. We really need to see how they connect. If the Storms can wipe them out, for instance, before they're actually able to touch any of the units. Okay, here we go. Note how Dark is trying to fish out more Storms before he actually full-on engages in here. Force Field's now going down to limit the pathing of the Banes. A nice Link counterattack in the main.
Yeah, that's a big deal as well. Some of the High Templars actually died over there, so that's actually hurting this attack quite a bit. He really needed some more Psy Storms to break through. In the meantime, the Zergling's taking some of Trap's attention, and he has to slow down his attack. He must deal with that.
Okay, the push is coming in now. We do have a Mothership here, making it a little bit more troublesome for the Zerg. Trap not maxed out as Dark is. He does take out the first base, but I'm actually much more concerned about the economic beating that Trap is receiving back home. He's at 44 workers to the 85 drones of Dark.
Oh man, attacking up right now, realizing he has to get damage done. The Hydra's in a huge arc. A lot of Zerglings coming in as well. He moves forward, trying to surround the entire army, and I think he is going to be able to kill it.
He does take out the Mothership. A small number of Protoss units remain, but with so many Hydras and Banelings spilling in, there's no way. GG. Dark takes game number 3.
All right, Dark showing signs of life here. He puts his name on the board and makes it a series. Another nice game, but both players, you know, playing a bit more passively here on Catalyst.
So in this next game, I'm wondering if Trap is going to be a little bit more assertive. He seemed to honestly be more passive than I think any of the games I've followed at this Intel Extreme Masters. I think he was hoping for Dark to try to over-engage, overextend, and Trap mops it up, and from there, it's a win. But Dark actually playing a really long macro game, and it was beautifully handled. Before we go into game number 4, we're going to throw it back to the desk with Kaelaris and the rest of the boys. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Indeed, a great start to the day here for the Intel Extreme Masters round of 12 for our World Championship. Joined by Pig and Rotterdam again, who are sifting through the replays from the previous games to figure out what they're actually going to show. And overall, so far, especially game number 2, was a barn burner. What on earth was going on there?
A barn burner. That is actually the perfect description. Honestly, it was like a couple of guys running around lighting things on fire, and kind of dropping the buckets of water, and the fire was getting out of control. Things were getting crazy in that game. I feel like both players had chances to close it out, but StraCraft has never played perfectly, and especially in these high-intensity moments. I mean, we saw Dark, like, he had the game under control, and then apparently Immortal pushes it kind of hard to stop with Roach Hydra. We saw so many cool moments in that game, but in the end, of course, Trap with a very good start to things. Dark barely rallying in the third game. It was a good turnaround there. Yeah.
Rotterdam, we can check in with you, I think, on laptop 2. Do you have a moment, or is it not ready yet?
I mean, I have a moment that's ready, but it's game number 3, and Pig actually wants to. He claimed game number 2, so I kind of feel like, you know, to just follow the story of Pig a little bit. But I mean, we can talk. We can go back about game 1 as well, James. It's so funny because Pig said in the intro, you know, no matter how great Dark is, sometimes he just does these all-ins that don't really make a lot of sense.
Yes.
And now, of course, you can say, like, does this Zergling Bailing Buzz, does it really not make sense? Maybe it can work. Of course it can work, but at this level, these guys are very thorough with their scouting. And Trap, he doesn't need to see much. He sends in the probe in the natural. He sees like 4 or 5 drones. He's like, okay, I know this ain't right. You know, I wasn't born last night. I know this is not normal Zerg build. So immediately throws up the batteries. Even took a little more damage than I think he should have, but he was so far ahead after that game 1. And I mean, you guys already said it. Game 2 was just ridiculous. There were a million moments to talk about, but I think Pig has found his moment. So Pig, take it away.
Let's go into laptop 1 as well, so we can check that out.
Let's do it. So of course, this is the moment where Dark had kind of done these drops all over the place. You can see the workers killed tab. He'd done so much damage to the economy. We see like a handful of workers at each base left. Trap doing this big desperate push, and we were all sitting there and we were saying, this doesn't look like a good push. This is such a small little Protoss army. But Dark didn't handle it quite right. So if we play from here, we can of course see that it was Roach Hydra and it was only coming in from one area. And it was basically always taking massive storms, and this core of Immortals and Archons just never went down. These force fields there, very effective. And it was just incredible. Micro from Trap, of course, he managed to kind of hold on, reinforce with charge lots. And there was multiple pushes like this where Dark was kind of overwhelming and pushing through, but then a few more Immortals would come up, and suddenly it was like, oh no, you're reinforcing pure Roach with Immortal on top of your production. Never a good situation for the Zerg, and it did start to slip out of his control a little bit there.
Keen to get the Warp Prism, but there was a second one in the end. Thank you very much, Pig. Let's check in as well now with Rotterdam, who had game number 3 going on.
Yep. I think one of the key moments that we saw in game 2 was at one point where Dark was maxed out, and he was setting up his army to really flank and potentially collapse on that fort base. That was quite early by Trap.
Yeah.
And Protoss often doesn't have that much when they want to take that fort. But he was running around, and then he actually looked like he was the one to engage into the third base, which had 4 Immortals, a High Templar, and a cannon. And at that point, he missed his window. If we can just jump to my laptop real quick, I'll keep it short, James. I know we have a million games to cover today, but I think this is a crucial moment in PvZ, because if you look at the armies right now, Trap's army is not much smaller. I mean, this is a feisty Protoss army with a couple of High Templars, but Dark is really using the mobility with a couple of these like silly Hydras over here. He is allowing himself to pull the Protoss army out of position. It gets revealed as well, but meanwhile he's sending all his forces to the left bottom side, and he gets a very easy cancel on the fort base. And this is what eventually set up for that stage much later in this game, because Dark in the end he decides not to commit, which I love, by the way, because running into cannons and batteries is just so tough. But this time he struck before the batteries and cannons were up. And that's why later on in this game, instead of having a close game where they're both being close to maxed out, that's all I wanted to show, guys. You know, Dark was actually maxed out and he had 2200 minerals in the bank. And that's where things get rough for Trap, especially if you start losing probes on 3 bases. It hurts your economy badly. So I love that Dark was a lot more decisive in this game and just got an immediate shutdown on the 4th base.
And Dark keeping himself alive in this series as well. Thank you very much for the updates here. Taking a look a little bit closer at some of the fights that are going on in this series. We're going to head back to the commentators. It's Tasteless bringing you this awesome series.
So far, we've seen Dark win game number 3, but he has to win 2 more in a row if he's going to close this out. I think the conservative play that we saw back there from Trap, he might ditch a little bit of it. He was very much waiting to see if Dark was going to overextend, and Dark played an incredibly patient game.
Yeah, he just kind of went back to some of the basics of Zerg versus Protoss, right? He makes a bunch of Hydras, a bunch of Lings, a bunch of Banes, keeps that creep spread out. how do you engage into that? Trap couldn't, so the game went long, and as we know, Dark is a very good late game player.
We are moments away from starting game number 4. Trap bringing some of the best PvZ we've ever seen. Also, Trap not going for any very specific timing attack in any of these games. He's just scouting. He's just trying to see what exactly is Dark doing, and maybe Dark's going to try to do some kind of attack. He'll shut that down. And I almost feel like, I was thinking about this in game 2, but you know, there's like a worker count at the bottom, and there's a resource count. We might need an immortal count. Because so many of these games, if you look at the numbers, you'd say, well, he's behind in supply, he has less workers, he has less resources, he has less bases, but Artosis, sometimes if you have enough immortals in a push, the rest of it doesn't matter.
Well said.
Trap's been very good at pumping out immortals in this game. In the upper left, in the blue, he is Trap! And in the bottom right, in the red, our Zerg player, he is Dark!
Of course, Dark's life on the line in this game as well as the last. Absolutely has to win or his run goes shorter than last year where he did get a top 4 here in Katowice. Trap though, I mean, he's looking hot, man. He's looking strong, keeps showing these great games. And even though Dark did win that last one, it's not like Trap played poorly. So Dark definitely having his work cut out for him at this point.
So, the probe scout, and this has been something that Trap's done, I believe, in all 3 games that we saw so far. He wants to come down here and get a read on what the initial build order is of Dark. You remarked on this before, Artosis, but even though we talk about Dark being a great late game player, he's actually done plenty of all-ins.
Yes, he does a lot of them.
Especially in a best of 5. We'll see him do some kind of all-in or some kind of crazy rush right off the bat so that he can close it out without just having to rely on his macro alone. And I think that's smart for Trap to try to come out here and scout and find out where exactly or what exactly Dark's up to, at least in the first few minutes.
Well, this could be a very good game for him to do it in because he's been going for very quick Zergling speed in the previous games, which makes you scared of something aggressive happening. Whereas here, he's just playing normally. He's getting his hatchery first and all that, right? So it's kind of like a reverse mind game in some ways.
We actually see that drone backing off of the 3rd base location down there in the bottom center. The probe, still alive, is going to try to once again come back in and see if there's anything else that Dark might be doing that will telegraph what will happen later on in the game.
A couple Lings going to come out, force that probe away as a drone comes out to expand. A Stargate opening once again from Trap. And this is something that just kind of makes you very safe as Protoss. And part of the reason it's a bit harder for Dark to kind of all-in Trap here, if you have some Oracles flying in the sky and you use them correctly, these early rushes have a hard time working. Oracles just kill Zerglings and Banelings so quickly like we saw previously. They can work on roaches that don't hit air. It's tough to break through.
Okay, the Adept continuing to move out now. The Adept sort of fills in the role for that probe, trying to come in and see what exactly is going on the Zerg side. But so far, Dark just seems to be playing a pretty standard game. Any creep tumors, anything else like that he can pick up is going to be handy. We do have some additional Lings being made, though.
Yeah, a decent amount of Lings coming out. I wonder if he's planning on any aggression here. Occasionally we'll see a little flood of Lings to try to cancel a 3rd base or something, but he kills the Adepts. That's pretty nice, actually. Loses 2 drones, but kills the Adepts. I would say that's fine for Dark at this point.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to affect Trap later on. Those are Adepts that can't put any more pressure. This really is a relief for the Zerg at this point in time. Now, the Oracle, this has been coming every game, and in most of the PvZs we cast, especially in 2018, the Oracle is always sent out early on. Zergs have gotten pretty good at dealing with this. You can even see that arc there with the Queen. He's more than ready for when this Oracle comes to drive it out and minimize drone damage.
Meanwhile, there are some Lings hitting the front over here. Ah, look at that.
We've seen this before.
Yeah.
Sometimes taking out the cybernetics core, I guess this would be ideal if you could take it out before the warp gate finishes. 10 seconds remaining. It's getting lower. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's done. But the core does go down, and now the Lings are inside. Now, of course, they're still in a depth position very well, and with the Oracle coming back, that was a nice save there by Trap. Man, that was so close to actually taking out Warp Gate.
Yeah.
If you could take out Warp Gate, tempo for Protoss is completely off.
Well, they can't get aggressive.
Yeah.
Your units are not going to come out. You can't warp them across the map or anything like that. So it's definitely strong. Here, it's not the end of the world. You know, it finished. Yeah, he can just warp in Zealots, but he has a single Adept. He has an Oracle, so he can still force out his expansion. You're not going to necessarily stop that with Lings.
So, the third base is now coming up here for Trap. Again, in the long run, Cybernetics core, not a huge deal that was taken out. It is a small victory, though, for Trap. With the War Prism about to move out on the map, we may see Trap try to keep a little bit of pressure on Dark while the third base should stay safe. Now, occasionally you can get Lings to come in there and take out that Nexus, but the Oracle makes that more difficult. However, coming in here into the main now,
yeah,
this is going to be a lot of probe kills.
This really is. He actually recalls Zealots up into this main area. Oh, I guess it was actually his Oracle he recalled, but look, that was really nice because the re-wall was not perfect. He used a pylon in the wall to slow everything down, then re-walled so he could walk out, and it wasn't a perfect re-wall for a one Adept holding it. So Dark seeing that, pounces on it, kills 5 probes. Like, Dark is playing very well right now. He is finding every edge available.
He really is. And this is a Dark. This is why we have a best of 5 when you're this late into a tournament. Is because someone like Dark actually can hammer together techniques and strategies to overcome somebody, even if he loses the first 2 games in very, very different ways. So the drone's now moving out here to go to the 4th base. Similar to, I believe it was our last game, we saw the 2 Adepts come out and try to drop into the main. And this is, you can check the tech here as well as try to interrupt the mining. Again, these are small little jabs they're taking at each other.
Yeah. I do want to point out that I'm really actually liking this situation for Dark. Like, even the Templar Archives and the Charge were a little bit late because the Twilight couldn't be made until the Cybernetics core refinished, right? So everything's a little bit slow for him. Notice how he's going directly into Psystorm. He's unable to put on pressure. All this comes down to the loss of that Cybernetics core. Normally, you'd be flying around, maybe a few Zealots come out, you try to kill a Queen or a couple of drones with your Archons, but instead, all he can do is this double Adept harassment, and it's really not doing that much.
Yeah, the drones are being very effectively evacuated every time over there. Psionic Storm, about halfway done. Again, Trap with a passive game. Now the Oracles are checking constantly and saying, okay, where are the rest of your hatcheries that you're taking? Besides the bottom left, every other expansion Zerg takes is closer to the Protoss. And a lot of Protosses want to get the game to a point where they can actually come there and slap down those bases over and over and get the Zerg into a dilemma where they just don't have as many expansions as their opponents.
Right now, the Oracle's kind of doing some harassment. They just saw the Morphing Lurker Den, so that was actually a very good scout as well. Yeah, I kind of like this position for Dark. He's getting good creep spread. He's going to have Lurkers up before there's any attack timing for Trap, even though he has that Psystorm. And this is getting into a position that we see Dark outplay people in a lot, right? He's going to have the Lings, he's going to have the Hydras, he's going to have the Lurkers, and a lot of creep spread to work with. So on Trap's side, do you play the defensive game? Do you just try to outmaneuver a player that's so tactically gifted as Dark and get into the late game?
It's also worth noting that Lurkers in some ways operate the same way that Broodlords do, in that they get a position, they can hold it, but sometimes you can just run around them. You can like do a counterattack at another base, you can warp in somewhere, and the Lurkers obviously can't scramble back home to save it. But when they do have that position, sometimes you just have to move away.
Ooh, a big Ling run by Dark here once again, as well as burrowing a bunch of Lurkers over at the third base. He takes out the cannons really quickly. We saw the Oracle tag at least one of these Lurkers, but it's actually cleaning up these Zerglings. So does he have detection here?
I think we're going to need to see the Psystorms, most importantly, come down and try to chisel away at these lurkers. But Trap actually taking a lot of damage right now, even though those Lings have been cleaned up. We can see, supply-wise, he's still limping into this game, and if Trap loses this third base, it's going to be nearly impossible for him to recover.
Oh, wow, look at this. He's actually going in a line. The Lurker's dealing huge amounts of damage right now, but Psystorm's blanketing the army of Dark.
Psystorm really is a truly effective counter for an angular push like this one. You just have a very specific area you need to shoot those Psystorms down into, and the Zerg can lose the position. But with Dark reinforcing this, has the damage already been done? Can enough units spill in here and take out what remains here for Trap to force him off of this base?
This is just crazy play from Dark. Look at this, picking off so many of the valuable units, almost getting that Warp Prism, but backing up. More Hydras coming in. I think Dark's going to be able to win it right there. GG!
Wow, we actually saw the exact moment he typed in the GG and was processing the fact that we're tied up 2-2. And this game could completely yo-yo in the other direction. Dark.
Yeah.
Dark.
The tempo is with Dark at this point. And I got to tell you, I am so impressed by that game. Dark kills the Cybernetics core, which is not the biggest thing because Warpgate finished, but he built an entire castle. He built a kingdom upon killing that Cybernetics core. Every move after that just built upon the weaknesses that caused in Trap.
Yeah, and we saw many times those Lings run in to the main and do so much damage. And you know, sometimes you'll see Lings run in there and they'll all die, and it's something we might not even remember as we go into the next game. But that did enough damage and got Trap a little bit too scattered that then that Lurker push actually managed to push through. And I believe we actually had 2 moments where the Observer was sniped over at that third base. And the moment that you lose the Observer, your army is just eating damage from the Lurkers.
Yeah. And don't forget, right, like the next run by of the Zerglings, we had the Oracle cleaning him up, so he couldn't tag all the Lurkers. He couldn't see most of those Lurkers because of the snipes, because of the Oracle having to clean up Zerglings. Like, Dark did so much with such a tiny thing. Literal nerd chills, Tasteless.
I can't believe how well Dark is playing this. And you know what? I have to be slightly critical of Trap here. Trap is delivering the same game over and over. And
he is.
Dark is actually adjusting very well. And I think if Trap tries to do the same strat that worked in game 1 and 2, and he does it in game 5, I think he is going to lose this.
Look at game 5. Look at what map we're playing. A Biogenesis. This is a map that gets vetoed more than any other in the current pool. The players generally don't play this one as much. Sometimes you see even veto chicken going on, both players thinking their opponent will get rid of this map. So this is going to be a crazy one, Tasteless. A very small map to finish it off on game 5.
It's all going to come down to this moment between Trap and Dark. One player will advance to be that much closer to becoming an Intel Extreme Masters champion. The other is eliminated from this tournament. In the bottom right, in the red, make some noise for Dark! His opponent in the upper left, he lost the last 2 games, but won the first 2. He needs to win this one now. He is Trap!
All right, this is where it is all decided. Trap scouting very quickly, making sure that this hatchery won't go down easily in the most defendable position, but Dark has decided to get a quick gas, to get a quick pull. We've seen this twice already in the series. Will he be aggressive with it, though? This is always the question. It's a question in Protoss mind, in the viewer mind, in the caster mind, maybe even in Dark's mind.
Again, another pylon there to block. We've seen Trap basically come in here with one plan, and that was to be more patient than his opponent. Now, we're seeing Dark get better and better against that style of play. And again, this is a weird map, as Artosis was saying. This is a map that the players generally try to avoid because they're more comfortable on the other maps, the maps we already saw here. But when you're in a series that is a best of 5, you have to be better on more maps, which means you need to know different styles, different exploits, and we may see a very different game here. And honestly, I'm really hoping we do see a different game from Trap.
Well, I think we have to see a different game. It's just the map is so different. It's such a small map as well. Either player could get hyper aggressive here. I think it is going to be a Stargate from what we're seeing. Oh no, there is Warp Gate. So that, and actually he might have waited until the Overlord left.
Yep, I think the Overlord did not actually see it.
And you know what that means? If the Overlord actually goes a little bit further and it didn't see Warp Gate, then he'll start scouting for a proxy Stargate. Okay, he sees Warp Gate now, but that's not that weird. Huh. Just kind of interesting, these little tiny variations. There is a Stargate on the way now. Oh, and then Ling comes up and sees it, so. everything kind of getting back to normal. That is a slightly later Stargate, though, than we normally see in this matchup.
So, Trap continuing to peak here, and the Adept pressure will probably come on here as well, as Dark is droning up. So I don't know, you know, we were remarking on that Warp Gate timing earlier. I don't know if that's going to be a big factor here.
I don't think so.
Or not. Yeah, I don't think so. But, you know, sometimes pros have these very, very specific builds that are so complex, we might not catch them. And maybe he wants to try to either throw a red herring out there and make Dark think something's coming that it's not, or get a very specific timing attack. So the Adepts are coming in here. They get that first drone.
Yeah, it's a couple of drones going down, so not so bad so far. Decent amount of Lings coming in. Going to be able to clean up the Adepts, but you know what? 4 drones at this point in the game, after your opponent did not go hatchery first, I'm liking the usage of those 2 Adepts for sure.
Me too. Second gate going down now, or another gate going down, I should say. There's a third in the main. To complete this wall in. And we still have those Lings running around. No pressure on the cybernetics core like we saw in that interesting third game attack, as the Oracle heads southbound to try to kill some drones.
Is Twilight going to be much faster this game, of course, as he hasn't lost his cybernetics core. It is going up already as Warp Gate finishes. Excited to see what upgrade he's going to get out of that. We don't see a Robo with it quite yet, so it could just be Glaives putting some pressure on like we did see previously.
Okay, the Phoenix takes out this Overlord. Does not actually scout, what is that? Okay, does not actually scout that over there on the far left. Although I think you could almost expect that to have been being produced at a point in time like this.
Okay, Resonating Glaives on the way. A Roach Warren coming up right now. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Just going to have to defend.
And so, we'll have to wait and see if Dark just absolutely goes for the most macro-intense game that we're going to have here. This is another very big map. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say free bases, but comfortable bases for Zerg to take at the bottom. But one other defining feature on this map is, like, you really, there's a lot of space in the middle. I mean, and I think almost all the expansions for Zerg in some ways are kind of easy to hold. Maybe not the ones that are shared on the left and the right in the center. But from there, yeah, I think Zerg can actually just try to macro up and play a very safe game. We have the 2 Robos now coming up here.
Dude, I like the 2 Robo play. He has these Glaive Adepts, and it's forcing Roaches out of Dark, and you don't have to do much to force Roaches out of Dark. He likes Roaches. But if he just goes all in on 2 bases here, lots of Adepts and lots of Immortals, these Roaches being made right now, they aren't going to do anything.
I think it's a smart play.
I mean, the Immortals can walk across this map in like 2 seconds. This is biogenesis.
Exactly. And if you can get in there that quickly and just do the damage that Zerg's trying to develop, it could certainly work. And we see those Adepts shading in over and over and over again. And I believe Trap's now going to try to make this 3rd Nexus right over here. He certainly has the minerals for it.
Well, he's scouting actually quite a few Roaches. So he canceled his Prism, started another Immortal there, and he's just going to make a lot of Immortals. That's the only thing he needs to focus on right now. His army is extremely good against what Dark has.
So, the Shades, again, have to be followed here by the Zerg, and I think you're right on that call, Artosis. I think he looks at this and says, okay, wait a minute. Zerg might actually want me to try to take a Nexus at this point in time. That could be a little bit scary. And we're continuing to have more and more Immortals taken out as that Ling's destroyed. the Nexus does finally go down. But some very cautious play here from Trap.
Yeah.
And the more Immortals that Trap gets out here, the more comfortable he's going to be against Roach Tech. Roach Ravager.
Yeah.
They do not want to deal with Immortals.
No, I mean, Ravager's obviously a lot better against them than the Roaches, but very expensive as well. He's made quite a few Ravagers, but this army of Darks, I really don't like it. Like, the army of Trap is so much better. It counters it in so many ways. Look at that. Force Fields, Guardian Shields, a lot of Glaive Adepts, and already this early in the game, 7 minutes in, we have 4 Immortals. We do need that Immortal count tab.
And with those 4 Immortals and the fact that there's so much meat in there with those Adepts and the opportunity to Force Field, it's going to be so hard for Dark to actually get in and kill the Immortals. A lot of times Protosses can lose games just because the Immortal was hit at like an angle. You can clip out one Immortal, or you take out the, like the Warp Gate and it's holding the Immortals in it.
Yeah.
But if you're just in a good position and you're very attentive to the Immortals, especially when you do have a Warp Prism and you can start juggling them in and out, the amount of damage you can do is pretty crazy. The 2 Oracles are very patiently ready to try to gun down if there is a full-on attack. And I think every time he sees additional Ravagers make, you got to be thinking, all right, you're up to something here. You don't just make those and stay back.
Dude, this is an arms race on both sides. They're both just making units, very slowly expanding, because I know that either of them could try to kill each other at any given time. Dark kind of forced into this older composition. He's going to be going Baneling, Roach, Ravager, Ling. And God, the Size Storm, I don't know if he'll go for Size Storm. He can just go for like a lot of Archons from here and keep up that Immortal production. And I don't see the unit plan for Dark to win this game.
I was talking about, I think it was before Game 4, that we need to have an Immortal ticker at the bottom of the screen, not just the workers and the supply. Because with this many Immortals, especially once the Archons come into play, it's going to be kind of scary. We are gearing up for a very big battle. I mean, with the unit comps like this, you can start to max out very fast, especially as Zerg, since Roaches just eat up so much supply.
Well, the creep spread is as good as Dark can really get it right now. It's almost on the doorstep of Trap's 3 bases here.
And with these Banelings about to finish, this is the moment where Zerg's saying, okay, it's about time to get in that fight.
Yeah. There's no Size Storm, so Baneling's speed might be the way that Dark can break the back of Trap here. But if Trap is in a defensive spot, it's hard to imagine. He has a lot of force fields. He might have 10, 12 force fields right now. He also has probably 8 to 10 Immortals. Yeah, man, look at that army. It is a scary one to deal with, to attack into this.
We have some batteries going down here as well. Trap is getting ready to brace for impact. Dark is moving in for the kill.
Okay, he goes up to the high ground with half his army, the other half going around the other side. He might be going for a flank here, coming on both sides.
Okay, the artillery is coming down now, hitting so many of those Immortals. They're bunched up enough. They're getting softened up. The force field's still keeping some of this army back.
Oh, so many Immortals, the shield batteries, the photon cannons, forcing Dark to turn around. He killed a lot of the expensive units and kept a lot of his Ravagers alive. But I say this went well for Trap.
Yeah, again, Trap just has to hang on. I did think he soaked up a lot of damage on those Immortals, but when it was all said and done, as long as most of those Immortals aren't killed off, they're still taking those shots, each one doing so much harm to the Zerg's army. Now, we do see an expansion. Top right, and I think this is about to get denied. That's not even far enough along in construction for the army of Trap to get up there and try to save it.
Oh, man. The force field's coming down, not doing that good a job. Speed Banelings rolling in right now. A lot of them detonating on an Immortals. Not necessarily the best, but the Lings coming in, trying to surround these units, and Archon gets picked off.
Eventually, the Lings and Roaches begin to thin out. And the Zerg has to try to reorganize and wait for more Lings and Banelings to reinforce this attack. It is a 4-base Zerg against a 3-base Protoss, but when these Zealots come in, if Zerg's not ready, he's going to lose a lot of drones and maybe even the hatchery.
Yeah, those +2 Zealots just chewing through the Zerglings for the time being. More Lings coming down. Of course, you can get across this map so quickly, especially on creep. Trap has to pick them up and run away. But Dark, he's getting up to Hive. He is slowly but surely, he's increasing his tech.
And the Immortal count actually has been knocked down enough times that I don't think Trap can as easily push out. I think Trap much more so wants to get a 4th base up and then wait for a very safe time to attack. Kind of an odd moment there, losing some of those Banelings there for Dark. And with all these additional Banes being made, I think Dark wants to come in here and attack at the top right or at the natural again. But these, okay, he spots the Warpins. I was about to say, if that Warp Prism goes undetected, then when this big attack at the top goes on, those Zealots could spill through the bottom and do a lot of damage. Yeah,
still trying to catch this Warp Prism. Of course, so little anti-air here all game from Dark. Part of the reason why Trap has been able to defend everything with this just continuous scouting. But more Immortals coming out. That fourth base is going to be finishing up for Trap. Hive Tech is out. Where does he go with that Hive Tech? I just see Adrenal on the way so far. Some Hydras being added in as well.
So, with Dark maxing out, and some of these units don't exactly parlay well into super late game, I think he's going to be forced to try to do something. And again, with the Ling Run buys, we've seen this win games before for Dark. Nothing there to block that off. And with this slow army having to defend a lot of these Ravagers coming up here, the main is going to be ravaged.
Wow, the Ling's just all over everywhere. 21 probes going down already. Even forces a kill on the Dark Shrine, a cancel rather. Very well done. Dark retreating with the rest of his army to stop this harassment.
And Trap is going for a counterattack, heading southbound now. So many Archons, Immortals, and Templars. Can Trap actually manage to wipe out all of these bases in one fell swoop? You could see back at Trap's home, 33 probes is all he has to mine compared to the 81 drones of Dark.
Oh man, okay, so Dark pulls away from this expand, realizing no real way for him to defend it. He pulled his drones back, still just trying to zone out, utilizing a lot of corrosive biles, trying to keep back Trap as long as possible.
With these corrosive biles being popped out, it's making it tricky for Trap. Trap is losing time. Trap wants to have a full-on engage, but doesn't want to eat too much damage before his units can start attacking.
The units of Dark coming down this ramp. Oh, a big pathing mistake there, losing a huge chunk of his army.
Dark getting further and further back. Another big Warpin comes in. Can Trap seesaw this game? The Banelings come forward, but Storm coming down. Only one Archon picked off.
Oh, another Archon does end up falling right there. The Immortals getting a ton of damage in. No Banelings remain. A very scary army for Trap pushing forward. He really wants to finish Dark here.
You can see Dark coming in now. Only a few Ravagers remaining. Queen's coming here from the bottom. Trap trying to get in. The supplies virtually the same.
He does have Adrenal on those Lings, but they just run into Archons being picked off so quickly. Corrosive Biles being thrown out, but Trap dodges. He pulls back. This natural hatchery definitely going to be killed.
Does he want to go for the main, or does he try to get the remaining expansions? Trap has to make a decision right now. He's backing up instead, going down here to the bottom. A few small reinforcements coming in.
Oh man, this army is still so scary, but more Hydras being made, more Speed Banes as well. I don't see any Psy Storm currently in the army. It's mostly just Immortals. Oh, a couple High Templars get warped in, just enough for one Storm each. But if Dark can dodge those, if he can get the right connections, maybe he can hold.
We see again the push coming down now. Immortals trying to get in. This army is thinning out. A small encounter attack does come, but the cannon shuts it down. So many drones can be taken out in this position.
The drones help kill off that Archon. Now he's surrounding the Immortals with so many drones. This is crazy by Dark. His last stand, he has to kill off this army now.
He's using the Warp Prism to try to keep as many of these units alive as well. Dark trying to hit, trying to pull this army apart, and it looks like he's about to, he does it, he gives up. GG! Trap has done it in a 3-2 victory against Dark.
That was one crazy series, a well-deserved win for Trap, winning games 1, 2, and 5. A nail-biter of a final game as well.
Trap had to execute that counterattack perfectly. In an odd way, that Ling Run by was so effective, it forced Trap in a position where he had to come out and attack, and he did it perfectly. Make some noise for your victor, Trap!
Going in and giving his respect to Dark. Dark, still one of the best Zergs. You really can see that in his play.
I gotta say, I think he can go very deep in this tournament, especially with play like that in Game 5. But we're going to a short break. When we come back, we'll have more StarCraft 2 action here at the Intel Extreme Masters.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We just saw our first round of 12 match of the day, and it is Trap taking down Dark 3-2. So first of all, congratulations. You're moving on to the quarterfinal, and for a big global stage, it's been around 3 years since you've made it to that round of 8. So tell us, what does it mean for you to make it back there?
일단 8강 진출 축하드리고요. 이제 해외 대회에서 8강 진출한 지 벌써 3년이나 돼가는데 그래서 의미가 더 있을 것 같은데 지금 무슨 느낌을 느끼고 있는지 얘기해 주세요.
일단 너무 힘든 게임이었던 것 같고 일단 제가 해외 대회 나오면은 무조건 4강 이상은 갔거든요. 그래서 올해도 그 이상 가고 싶은 마음이 간절하고 또 이제 3년 전처럼 결승 무대에 또 서고 싶어요.
So he says, first things first, it was just such a difficult series, so I'm really glad that I was able to win. And that being said, whenever I've come out to foreign events in the past, I've always made it to at least the semifinal. So I hope that I can do that again here as well. And also, at the last time I was here in Katowice, I made it all the way to the grand final. So I want to continue to do well so I can make it to the grand final in the Spodek Arena. And now, this was such an amazing series to watch. It went all 5 maps. I want to talk about Blackpink in particular because it turned into such an extended long game where it was so scrappy. At one point, you lost 40 pros and yet you were still able to win. So tell us how you did that.
일단 블랙핑크 대해서 물어보고 싶은데 정말 재밌는 경기였는데 되게 한 번은 이제 조성환 선수가 프로 1군을 40개 넘게까지 이뤘는데도 이겼어요. 그래서 어떻게 이겼는지 얘기해 주세요.
그때 서로 1군하고 병력이 엄청 많이 잃은 상태였고 또 약간 상황 판단하기 힘든 상황이었는데 저는 그때 1군이 너무 적었는데도 1군 채우고 다시 하면은 이길 수 있다는 판단을 세워가지고 그래서 이긴 것 같아요. 거기서 1군 잃었다고 조급하게 했으면 오히려 졌을 것 같아요.
So he says, I definitely agree with you. That was kind of a scrappy game from both of us. At that time, I had lost a lot of workers, but he had lost a lot of workers and units as well. So it turned into a sort of difficult game for both of us to sort of feel out. I think the reason that I was able to come back and win at the very end is that in that moment when I did lose all my probes, I decided to continue to play out for the longer game and not sort of panic and try to end the game right then and there. I think if I had gone that route, I would have actually lost the game. So thankfully, I was able to win because of the
the decision that I had made. And last but not least, you're going up against Carrol, who's been performing out of his mind lately. He won Group C, so what are your thoughts on him? 이제 다음 만날 상대는 세럴 선수인데 그룹 C에서 이긴 선수예요. 그래서 요즘 되게 잘하는 해외 선수인데 어떻게 생각하세요?
네, 일단 최근에 우승도 했던 선수고 나이도 일단 어리고 저도 굉장히 잘한다고 생각해요. 잘한다고 생각하고 하지만 저는 이제 제 자신을 컨트롤만 잘하면은 충분히 할 수 있다는 생각이 들고 일단 어제 마지막 경기하고 오늘도 바로 첫 경기를 했는데 이제 체력전인 것 같아요. 저는.
So he says, when it comes to Carrol, I know that he's a very good player. I know that recently he was the WCS Leipzig champion. I know he's also a very young player, and so I definitely respect him and think that he's one of the best players, if not the best foreigner right now. That being said, I think that as long as I play my game and control my gameplay well, that I can do well. And that being said, I played the last match yesterday and the first game today, so to me, I honestly think it's going to be an endurance battle, but we'll see how it goes. Congratulations again, Trev. You're advancing to the round of 8. Kaelaris, back to you.
What a series. Trap wins 3-2. It was a close one at the very end, though, as of Top Course taking those first 2 wins, and then Dark trying to make that big recovery in the end. Abiogenesis, though, or Abiogenesis, was his fall down. Welcome back to the battle station here. I do have Pig and Rotterdam once again here. I almost called you Maynarde. That was weird. But we're going to take a little bit of a recap as to what may have gone on in those games, take a bit of a deeper dive. Pig, I want to start with you on Acid Plant, game number 4.
Yeah, let's dive straight into that replay, of course. This is where Trap was very close to slipping down the rabbit hole of losing to the reversal sweep. We're going to watch a series of unfortunate events here for Trap, of course, where he came in with these adepts, and we kept talking earlier, Roddy, about how this was getting so much damage, and for once, the Zerg was ready. And absolutely no damage done here. It was just a couple of drones, not a great trade.
Yep.
But most importantly, this opened up the next series of events. We can see back at home, only a single adept on the defense, and this is something Dark was very eager to punish. Now, we see Trap here immediately walls off and tries to shade this adept back to safety. But just before it gets back there, it does end up going down. Of course, this led to the cybernetics core going down, which is a pain, but Warpgate research was finished. He defended, but this flowed on. And here's the big mistake from Trap. Put down the Cybercore here and created the wall, which you should never create, a diagonal wall.
Yes.
I think every Protoss player on ladder has made the mistake of doing this once in a while. And it is almost impossible to have the adept positioned just perfectly. It needs to be minutely positioned. If it's even slightly out of whack, there will be a gap and Zerglings will find their way through. And that's exactly what ended up happening in this game. As we see, those Zerglings just ran through, and this is basically the game-ending moment. And it was looking so dire for Trap. He was up 2-0, and after these series of little mistakes, suddenly it was getting very close. And the same thing actually almost happened a little bit later. So we can opt out of this game, and Kevin can, I guess, follow that story on.
Yeah, going into game number 5, we'll go to Abiogenesis, a map that before this game we've seen 4 times during the whole tournament. So it's not exactly the most common of maps to go to. And Rotterdam, you were talking to me in the break about how best of 5s can definitely change the flow of series since everything has been best of 3s before.
Yeah, you see a couple of maps that you haven't seen that many times before. Of those 4 games, by the way, that James mentioned, and that's out of 400 game sample size,
yes.
I think 3 out of 4 games actually included Dark. So he's just the only one that actually loves this map, and we can go ahead and jump into it. And I must say, I was really surprised to see this map play out the way it did. I'm sure a lot of people at home did as well, because whenever you queue up on the ladder, James, you have a hatchery outside of your main, or you get link flooded of 17 drones. I've never seen a Zerg on 5 or 6 bases on this map. Anyway, this is quite funny. Before we're really going to go ahead and into it, is that in the old days there was this build where you would go up to Resonating Glaives and then 3 bases, and then you always had your robos here. Showtime always did the exact same thing, where it's like pylon, cannon, robo, pylon.
Yep.
Now, they don't really do that anymore because those builds often died against like Roach Swarms or Roach Ravager, so they build them at home. The problem is when you build them at home, you've got a wall up, right? So the Zealot is like, don't worry, buddy. I'll let you squeeze through. But then Zealot is sleeping on the job. And right on that moment, Dark runs in, and it does a lot of damage. Because if we just pause real quick, you look at the work account, Oops, that's not a circle. Ah!
That's near enough. We know where to look.
59 against 81. So obviously, if Dark is actually able to kill some workers here, which obviously he's going to do, he will always be in a good position. And this is panic mode for Trap. Because do you really want to macro your way out? Do you really want to go up against the Hive Zerg? Ooh, and then this happened, right? And then obviously this was not supposed to happen. Dark controlling his Zerglings, rallied a couple of Hydras into this meat grinder of a Protoss army. But this is a Hive Tech Zerg. 36 against 81 workers. Trap knows that he needs to do something right now, and Dark knows all he needs to do is survive. So once again, losing those Hydras, this is really painful. Not supposed to happen, but Dark still had a little bit of money in the bank. He can max out. He's setting up defensively, but then we have an even bigger mistake, James. And I think, honestly, this is perhaps what made the difference, because Dark was playing a very solid game up to this point. Like, he decides to sacrifice this base, which, you know, we're all totally okay with. And here he's kind of thinking about setting up. You can see him running around like he's so hectic. He's here, hectic here, hectic here. It's just circles everywhere, James.
That's a lot of circles.
I mean, he's just like kind of indecisive. And he's buying time, which actually is what he was supposed to do, because he's on 81 workers against 41. So he's running around, and then he makes one crucial mistake. Because if you look at this ramp, these units, they should not go down there.
Oh no.
I mean, that's painful. That's 5-6 Ravagers, couple Banelings, loses a few more Banelings on the south side, loses Hydras.
And then he gets up that narrow ramp, doesn't he? Otherwise the Ravagers could have held that choke point.
And this is exactly where Trap gets in the position that he wants to be in. And it got close after this as well. It was a real nail-biter of a series in the end. If you talk about it coming down to the wire, I think this series truly came down to the wire. But in the end, Trap just barely had enough. What a bizarre series to start the day.
I feel like, Pig, if this had been a bigger map than Abiogenesis, after the attack the Dark makes, maybe he has a bit more time to actually kind of recoup back at home. Even though he's sacrificing a few units here or there, he has a longer route to actually go.
Some nice analysis from Kaelaris. We should get you off hosting the desk. You should be over on this side. Honestly, you're spot on, though. I mean, the way the Ravager Ling Bane composition works is those Ravagers are kind of a zoning unit. They're sort of like this unit. The more space you have to work with, the more damage you're going to inflict on an attacking army. On that map, it's like we saw there, as soon as those Ravagers ran down that ramp, suddenly it was like Trap was like, bam, I'm running into your natural. Suddenly Dark didn't have any space to work with. He was up against his natural expansion. No room to make the Corrosive Biles do the work for him. Trap cleaned the game up from there.
All right, well, let's look at the bracket, because that's the most important thing about everything here, as Serral will go up against Trap in the round of 8. We can talk about that forever, but arguably he may have dodged a bullet there in Dark, as he did lose out to him in exactly the same position last year, 3-0. We can talk about that in a bit, though, as our next match is going to be Dia going up against Impact. We're going to go to a short break. We're going to have more PvZ awesomeness here from the round of 12.